Nepal's authorities clearing illegal riverside settlements in Kathmandu. Displaced families relocated as data collection begins. Nepal marks 10 years since the 2015 Gorkha earthquake. Experts call for stronger preparedness and risk reduction. Hindu Kush Himalaya snowpack hits record low. Water shortages also loom as experts warn for severe regional impacts. Pakistan's Prime Minister receives Iran's Foreign Minister and his delegation. US envoys en route to Islamabad for new round of peace talks. At least 7 killed in overnight Russian strikes across Ukraine. Also carries out its longest distance drone strikes inside Russian territory. And Nepal secures 37-run victory over the UAE in ICC Cricket World Cup League 2. Current cases stats with 4-wicket haul. Good evening, I'm Suveksha Rajak and this is NTV World Primetime News. We are coming to you live from Kathmandu at 1900 hours Nepal time. Elsewhere is 13:15 in London, 22:15 in Tokyo and just after midnight in Sydney. The details now. Authorities in Nepal's federal capital Kathmandu are clearing unauthorized settlements built on public and government land along the local Bagmati River, completing the eviction of a riverside community in the Thapathali area. Officials had issued public notices via loudspeakers from Thursday, warning residents to vacate the encroachments. Some families began living voluntarily on Friday in compliance with the notice, and the process continued into Saturday morning. Authorities delayed demolition, initially scheduled for 6 a.m. to allow residents additional time to leave on their own before beginning to dismantle structures at around 8 a.m. Displaced and landless individuals are being transported to Thatched Stadium, where authorities are collecting data on affected households. As of now, records of 68 families have been compiled. Of these, 34 families have been relocated to the Radha Swami Satsang Ashram in Sundarighat in Kirtipur. Alongside the data collection, basic health services have been provided to 18 individuals, according to the officials. Following the clearance in Thapathali, removal operations moved to Gairigaon area later in the day. The structures built on the public land along the Bagmati River is being dismantled as per the government's directives. A joint team of Nepal Police, Armed Police Force and Kathmandu Metropolitan Police has been mobilized to remove the settlements and demolish the structures from this afternoon. Spokesperson of the District Police Range, Kathmandu, SP Pawan Kumar Bhattrai, said that the work of removing the temporary and permanent structures is currently underway with a significant presence of security personnel. After the settlement in Thapathali area was evacuated in the morning, the demolition work is currently underway in the Gairigaon area. All the security personnel were kept on high alert to prevent possible obstacles. There have been no obstruction or clashes so far, and the task is being carried out peacefully, according to police. Kathmandu's long-standing unmanaged settlements along riverbanks are now facing a decisive and well-coordinated government enforcement. In years of uncertainty, authorities have simultaneously begun a screening process to distinguish genuine landless families from illegal occupants. Our teammate Diksha Avasti with local correspondent Anjeer Singh Bishwakarma brings more.
Nearly 6,000 families, around 40,000 people living along 6 major riverbanks in the Kathmandu Valley are now facing eviction and resettlement as the government launches a large-scale squatter settlements clearance drive. Authorities have also begun identifying genuinely landless families, with 24 households already verified as fully homeless and temporarily housed at Thatched Stadium in Tripureshwar. Digital profiling is underway and verified families will be relocated to sites including Kirtipur, Ichangu, Bode and Kharipati. Officials say priority is being given to children, the elderly and persons with disabilities as the government attempts to balance river conservation and urban order with humanitarian responsibility. From early this morning on Saturday at the Thapathali quarter settlements, what was once a hotspot of resistance along the Bagmati river bank in Kathmandu, there were no clashes or stone pelting, only the steady sound of bulldozers tearing down makeshift shelters as the government's final deadline expired. Following the peaceful clearance of Thapathali, the operation expanded to other unauthorized settlements along river corridors across the valley. Police say many residents cooperated with prior notices, some moving their belongings on their own, while others were assisted by security personnel. Encroachments have long spread along rivers like the Bagmati, Vishnumati and Balkhu. In Thapathali alone, 252 families had been living in informal settlements. A previous relocation effort in Ichangunarayan failed, leaving constructed housing unused, raising concern about the effectiveness of current plans. While this campaign sends a strong message against illegal occupation, experts stress that the real solution lies beyond demolition in sustainable rehabilitation. As the process unfolds, attention now turns to whether the government can deliver a lasting and human resolution for the truly landless.
Now in the other news, Chinese ambassador to Nepal Zhang Maoming and Indian ambassador to Nepal Naveen Srivastava met Minister of Energy, Water Resources and Irrigation Biraj Bhakta Shrestha on Friday. In this meeting held separately, Chinese ambassador discussed with the Energy Minister a range of matters aimed at advancing mutually beneficial practical cooperation. In addition, a commitment has been expressed to cooperate and collaborate for common prosperity and public interest by promoting the energy and water resources sectors as an important basis for mutual cooperation. Similarly, in the meeting with the Indian ambassador, both sides engaged in fruitful exchanges on areas of mutual interest, particularly in strengthening cooperation in the energy and water resources sector. Discussions underscored the long-standing partnerships between Nepal and India and the shared vision of advancing sustainable development and regional connectivity. The Energy Ministry has said it looks forward to further strengthening this partnership through continued dialogue and cooperation. Now we are waiting for a short break. Welcome back. You're watching NTV World Primetime News. Nepal is observing Earthquake Memorial Day today, Baisakh 12 of the Nepali calendar, commemorating the devastating 7.6 magnitude earthquake that struck on April 25, 2015. The earthquake had its epicenter in Barpak of Gorkha. The disaster, which occurred at 11:56 a.m., affected 32 districts and claimed more than 9,000 lives, leaving thousands injured and millions displaced. Historic landmarks, including Kathmandu's Dharara Tower and several cultural heritage sites, were destroyed or severely damaged. Authorities report that over 300,000 families across Nepal, India and Bangladesh were left homeless in the aftermath of the catastrophe. Even a decade later, the memory of the disaster remains vivid, with experts warning that inadequate enforcement of building codes could still expose the country to severe earthquake risk. Officials and experts continue to call for awareness and preparedness effort, warning that Nepal's high seismic risk makes future large-scale earthquakes a continuing threat. Now in the other news, snow cover across the Hindu Kush Himalaya has fallen to 27.8% below the long-term average, breaking last year's record low and marking the fourth consecutive year below normal snow persistence. This is stated in the Snow Update Report 2026 released on Friday by the International Center for Integrated Mountain Development. The persistent decline signals a systemic collapse of seasonal snow reserves across the world's highest mountain range, posing an immediate and escalating threat to water security for nearly 2 billion people who depend on the 12 major river basins originating in the HKH. 10 of those basins now have below normal snow persistence. The Mekong, Tarim and Tibetan Plateau have recorded their lowest levels in 24 years of monitoring. Seasonal snowmelt contributes up to 77.5% of annual runoff in the Helmand Basin and 74.7% in Amudarya, meaning reduced snow this year will directly impact water availability for drinking, irrigation, hydropower and ecosystem. This situation is particularly concerning for water supply and flood management. Reduced snow melt will lower spring runoff and intensify water scarcity in downstream areas, especially in the western river basins. Farmers in the Indus, Helmand and Amudarya basins face irrigation shortfalls during early growing seasons. Janaki Navami is being observed across Nepal's ancient Mithila region today with a series of religious rituals marking the birth anniversary of Sita. Celebrated each year on the 9th day of the bright fortnight of the Nepali month of Baisakh, the festival, also known as Sita Jayanti, commemorates the belief that Sita was born in Mithila, also referred to as modern Janakpur. Mithila lies in Nepal's southeastern plains, especially in the Madhya province along the border with India, and extends into parts of northern India. According to tradition, during a severe drought in the kingdom of Videha, King Janak ploughed a field following advice from scholars, after which Sita is believed to have emerged from the earth. In districts including Mahottari, celebrations began with the start of bright lunar phase. Temples and holy shrines across the region are hosting 9-day religious observances featuring recitations of scriptures, processions and ritual dedicated to Sita. Jerung, one of Nepal's 124 languages with fewer than 3,000 speakers, is facing the threat of extinction as younger generations shift to dominant languages. In eastern Nepal's Okhaldunga district, where most speakers live, community members are calling for urgent government action to preserve the language through education and formal recognition. Our colleague Aprila Kisinglama reports.
According to Nepal's 2021 national census, Jerung is one of the 124 languages spoken in the country, with a total of 2,817 native speakers. The language is primarily used by the Zero Rai community residing in areas such as Madhavpur, Sisneri, Kalleri, Jordhara, Balkhu, Jerung Hill, Jerung Village, among others in eastern Nepal's Okhaldunga district. Census data indicates that 2,427 Jerung speakers live in Okhaldunga alone.
बुवा मम्मीहरुसम्मलाई आउँछ अब बाजे बजुलाई आउँछ त्यहाँदेखि अलिकति अब हामीलाई चाहिँ अब आउँदै आउँदैन भन्दा पनि भयो अब बुझ्न त बुझ्छौं हैन हल्का बोल्छौं तर त्यसको नीति नियमहरु केही हामी पूरा गर्दैनौं र अब हाम्रो बालबच्चा अब हामीसम्म त ठिकै अब हाम्रो बालबच्चाले चाहिँ अब केही नै नबुझ्ने भयो
हामी जेरो राखेको हो तर भाषा चाहिँ के हो भने ओम्बोले भाषा जेरो त्यो किनभने अलिकता समाजले तान्यो नि अबोलेको समाजले तानेर त्यो भाषा अब के हो भने बान्तावाको छेउमा बस्दाखेरिमा बान्तावा भाषै नै आउँछ कि थुलुङ राईलाई पनि
Despite its presence, the Jerung language is at risk of extinction. The growing dominance of other languages, particularly those used in formal education and wider communication, has reduced its appeal among younger generations. As a result, intergenerational transmission of the language is weakening. Linguistically, Jerung has a defined structure with 29 consonants and 6 vowels as identified by the Language Commission of Nepal. However, the absence of a standardized script and an official curriculum has limited its use to oral communication.
पाठ्यक्रम पनि निर्माण गर्ने कुरा हुँदा हुँदै पनि नभएको कारणले गर्दाखेरि अहिलेको पछिल्लो पिढी पुस्ताका पछिल्लो जेनेरेसनका बच्चाहरूलाई चाहिँ यो भाषा समस्या आइरहेको कारणले गर्दाखेरि यसको संरक्षण गर्नको लागि पाठ्य पुस्तक तयार गरेर अलिकता भाषा विज्ञहरूसँग सहजीकरण गरेर अगाडि बढाउनता चाहिँ भोलिको जेनेरेसनमा यो भाषालाई स्थापित गर्न सकिन्थ्यो भन्ने चाहिँ मलाई अहिले लागिरहेछ.
Local leaders and educators note that there has been insufficient institutional effort toward its preservation. Migration for education and employment has further contributed to the decline in the number of active speakers. Even within villages, daily communication increasingly takes place in Nepali or other dominant languages. Community members emphasize the need for coordinated efforts from all levels of government to safeguard the language. Suggested measures include the development of a formal curriculum, integration of Jerung language instruction in schools, and community-based language education programs. Jerung is not merely a means of communication. It represents the identity, history, and cultural heritage of the Zero Rai community. Without timely and sustained intervention from local communities, authorities, and the state, the language faces the real possibility of disappearing. A report by April Singh Lama with local correspondent Nawaraj Karki for NTV World.
We have international updates coming up next, but before that, time to go for a short break. Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif received Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi and his delegation at his residence in Islamabad. The meeting takes place as U.S. envoys Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner as headed to the Pakistani capital in a bid to kickstart a new round of peace negotiations with Iran amid a fragile ceasefire, though the prospect of direct talks remain uncertain. Officials said the discussions in Islamabad are part of intensified diplomatic efforts to prevent further escalations and create conditions for indirect or direct engagement between Washington and Tehran. The Iranian delegation is expected to brief Pakistani leadership on regional security concerns and ongoing ceasefire arrangements. However, significant gaps remain between the parties on key security and political demands, complicating prospects for immediate breakthroughs. Now, meanwhile, White House Press Security Secretary Caroline Leavitt has emphasized that President Donald Trump remains open to diplomatic engagement despite the fragile security situation, as said delegations is traveling to Islamabad for face-to-face discussions with Iranian officials.
Has decided to dispatch Special Envoy Witkoff and Jared Kushner back to Islamabad. The Iranians want to talk. They want to talk in person, and so the president is, as I've said many times to all of you, always willing to give diplomacy a chance. So Steve and Jared will be heading to Pakistan tomorrow to hear the Iranians out. We hope progress will be made, and we hope that positive developments will come from this meeting.
At least 7 people were killed in Russian strikes across Ukraine overnight, including 5 in central city of Dnipro, where officials said an apartment building was hit. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said the latest attack lasted practically all night, while rescue workers were still searching for survivors under rubble in Dnipro on Saturday morning. British jets were scrambled from Romania during the heavy attack when Russian drones were detected near the border. Through the UK Ministry of Defence rejected a report it had shot some down. Meanwhile, Ukraine carried out some of its longest distance drone strike deep inside Russian territory. Explosions and sustained gunfire have been reported in Mali's capital Bamako as armed groups launch apparently coordinated attacks across the country. The military amid fighting is ongoing, adding their defense and security forces are currently engaged in repelling the attackers. Soldiers have been deployed to block off roads in the area. There are also reports of attacks in Gao and Kidal in the north and Sivari in central Mali. It is described as the largest jihadist attack in years. Palestinians in central Gaza and the occupied West Bank are voting in municipal elections, the first local vote held since the start of Israel's genocidal war on Gaza. Polling stations opened at 4 GMT on Saturday for 70,000 eligible voters in Gaza's Deir el-Balah area, the first electoral exercise in the besieged enclave in 20 years. The vote in a single city in Gaza is largely symbolic, with officials calling it a pilot. Deir el-Balah was selected because it is one of the few areas in Gaza not destroyed by Israeli forces. Nearly 1 million registered voters in the occupied West Bank are also voting to determine the make-up of local councils overseeing water, roads and electricity. The vote is seen as perfunctory as official policy decisions in occupied areas are not made without Israeli approval. We have more international updates lined up next, but before that, let's take another break. A fragile sandbank off France's Atlantic coast is rapidly disappearing after a series of powerful winter storms in what scientists describe as an unprecedented environmental shift affecting a protected biodiversity site. The Arguin, located near the towering Dune du Pilat in Arcachon Bay, has shrunk dramatically from about 7 kilometers in the length in 2020 to roughly 2 kilometers in 2026, according to monitoring data cited by researchers. Scientists say the erosion driven by repeated winter storms and shifting coastal dynamics is accelerating faster than previously observed. The sandbar, long considered a jewel of the region's coastal ecosystem, serves as a critical habitat for migratory and nesting bird species and has been protected as a nature reserve for decades. Local authorities and environmental groups are continuing to assess the damage and evaluate potential conservation responses, though scientists caution that intervention options may be limited given the natural and dynamic nature of the sandbank. The sun fired off a powerful flare at 9:07 Beijing time on Friday, which was captured in great clarity by China's Fengyuan 4C geostationary meteorological satellite. According to the China Meteorological Administration, the flare was observed from the active region 14419 near the sun's northwest limb and peaked at X24. Flares are classified from C, the weakest, to M, the moderate strength, and X, the strongest. The blast caused temporary disruptions to shortwave radio communications and satellite negotiation signals. Millions of tulips has bloomed at peak spring display in Netherlands as Keukenhof opens a global visitors with millions of tulips in full flower as the seasonal attraction enters its busiest phase. Authorities and park officials report that the garden, which is open for only around 8 weeks each year, is drawing tens of thousands of visitors daily from across the world. The surge in attendance coincides with the height of the tulip season, when the park's extensive landscaped fields are at their most vibrant. The peak bloom period is considered the most significant phase of the park's annual calendar, contributing heavily to regional tourism activity in South Holland. Now we are moving on to sports. Nepal secured a 37-run victory over the United Arab Emirates in an ICC Cricket World Cup League 2 match. Chasing a target of 201 runs, UAE was bowled out for 163 in 48.2 overs at the match held at the Tribhuvan University International Cricket Ground. For Nepal, Karan Casey led the bowling attack with 4 wickets, while Sandeep Lamichhane and Sompal Kami claimed 2 wickets each. Dipendra Singh Aire and Lalit Rajbansi picked up 1 wicket apiece. For UAE, Harpreet Singh top scored with 39 runs off 52 balls, hitting 5 boundaries. Mohammad Wasim contributed 34 runs while Akhil Deepnath added 30. Earlier, Nepal was bowled out for 248.2 overs after being asked to bat first. Dipendra Singh Aire was the top scorer with 75 runs off 90 balls, including 5 fours and 2 sixes. Benfica's Gianluca Prestiani has been handed a 6-match suspension for discriminatory conduct that was deemed homophobic in Champions League match against Real Madrid, UEFA announced. Prestiani will be banned for 2 more matches after UEFA said on Friday that a further 3-match suspension would be subject to a probationary period of 2 years, starting from the date of present decision. He has already served a 1-match provisional suspension. The Argentinian winger was accused of directing a racist slur at Real Madrid forward Vinicius Jr. during the Spanish side's 1-0 Champions League playoff first leg win in February. UEFA also said they would request FIFA to extend the suspension worldwide. And before we wrap up, here's a reminder of our top stories. Nepal's authorities clearing illegal riverside settlements in Kathmandu, displaced families relocated as data collection begins. Nepal marks 10 years since the 2015 Gorkha earthquake. Experts call for stronger preparedness and risk reduction. Hindu Kush Himalaya snowpack hits record low. Water shortages also loom as experts warn of severe regional impacts. Pakistan's Prime Minister receives Iran's Foreign Minister and his delegation. US envoys en route to Islamabad for new round of peace talks. At least 7 killed in overnight Russian strikes across Ukraine. Also carries out its longest distance drone strikes inside Russian territory. And Nepal secures a 37-run victory over the UAE in ICC Cricket World Cup League 2. Current cases stats with 4-wicket haul. That's it for this edition of Primetime News. Our next bulletin will be at 2200 hours Nepal time. Do join us through our social media and get the latest updates from our official website, nepaltelevision.com. I am Suveksha Rajakan. Thank you for staying with us. Have a wonderful evening ahead.
Welcome to the studios of NTV World in Kathmandu, Public Service Broadcasting PSB Nepal's new initiative to make Nepal more visible and audible to the global audience. Welcome on board.
This is NTV World, facts that speak, insights that matter.
Telling the stories of a changing planet. NTV World, Nepal's perspective to the world.
Exploring the heartbeat of Nepali creativity. This is NTV World.
The power of story shaped by technology. NTV World.
Unearthing Nepal's hidden heritage. Discovering the timeless Nepal.
Telling stories that endure across centuries.
Where culture breathes, stories bloom.
When the world moves, we make a sense of it. NTV World.
Taste of Nepal. Every recipe, every flavor tells the story.
Journalism in the digital age. Fast, focused, verified.
Stories hold power. Stories reflecting life. Stories of the hinterlands. Reporting for NTV World.
This is NTV World. Welcome to News Hour.
This is NTV World. Welcome to Primetime News.
One story at a time.
Crossing borders, connecting voices. Where Nepal meets the world in dialogue. This is NTV World, Nepal's perspective to the world.
Voices that connect Nepal to the world, bringing perspective, region and relevance to every story. NTV World, Nepal's perspective to the world.
Stand by.
Mic is on.
3, 2, 1, cue.
We are NTV World.
This is The World This Week, your weekly roundup of the latest international events and updates. This is me, Bhavana Casey. In this edition, we bring you the stories making headlines across the globe, from geopolitical tensions to major political developments to cultural celebrations and remarkable feats. We have all that you need. Let's begin with the latest updates on the Middle East conflict. U.S. President Donald Trump had said the Israel-Lebanon ceasefire has been extended by 3 weeks while warning he is in no rush to strike a deal with Iran. Trump further claimed the United States has a total control over the strategic Strait of Hormuz, even as tensions persist in the region. Trump says the Israel-Lebanon ceasefire will be extended by 3 weeks following talks at the White House. His comments come as tensions remain high across the Middle East, with the Iran-Israel-Lebanon conflict continuing to drive instability.
We had a great meeting with the very high officials of Lebanon and very high officials of Israel, and we think that the President of Lebanon and the Prime Minister of Israel over the next couple of weeks will be coming here. They've agreed to an additional 3 weeks of, no firing, ceasefire. No more firing. Let's see. We hope that happens. It's not going to happen between them, but they do have Hezbollah to think about.
The ceasefire extension follows continued accusations of violations between the Israel Defense Forces and Hezbollah. The Israel Defense Forces said it killed 3 Hezbollah members in overnight strikes, while Hezbollah reported firing rockets into northern Israel. One of the key obstacles to a lasting settlement remains the status of Hezbollah's weapons arsenal, with the Iran-backed group refusing to discuss disarmament as a part of any political agreement. On Iran, Trump said he will not rush negotiations even as he asserted U.S. strategic dominance over the Strait of Hormuz, a vital global shipping route.
We opened it up 3 days ago. They came to us and they said, we will agree to open the strait. And all my people were happy. Everybody was happy except me. I said, wait a minute, if we open the strait, that means they're going to make $500 million a day. I don't want them to make $500 million a day until they settle this thing. So I'm the one that kept it closed. We have total control of it. And it'll open when they make a deal or something else happens that's very positive.
The remarks came after he publicly described Iran's leadership as seriously fractured, prompting Iranian authorities to issue a coordinated message aimed at projecting internal unity. The developments underlined widening regional uncertainty as ceasefire arrangements remain fragile and diplomatic efforts struggle to contain overlapping conflicts across the Middle East. From rising tensions in the Middle East to concerns within global alliances, NATO says there is no provision for member states to be suspended or expelled from the military alliance after a report said the US could seek to suspend Spain over its stance on Iran war. The clarification follows reporting based on an internal Pentagon email, which allegedly outlined options for punishing allies viewed as insufficiently supportive of U.S. operations in the Iran war, including limiting or suspending Spain's role in the alliance. The reported document also suggested reviewing U.S. diplomatic positions on long-standing territorial disputes, such as the UK's claim to the Falkland Islands. A NATO official said that the alliance's founding treaty contains no provision for suspending or expelling members, meaning any such move is not possible under current rules. NATO operates on consensus among its members, and countries can only leave voluntarily under Article 13 of the treaty. The reported U.S. consideration comes amid tensions over European allies' participation in military support operations linked to the U.S.-Israel campaign in Iran, including disputes over access, basing, and overflight rights for U.S. forces. Spain has been among the most vocal European critics of the strikes and has limited the use of its military facilities for U.S. operations. Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez dismissed the report, saying his government relies on official positions rather than leaked emails, and reaffirming Spain's commitment to international law and allied cooperation. The controversy highlights growing strains within the transatlantic alliance as Washington pressures European partners to take a greater role in security operations linked to the Iran conflict, while some EU governments push back on direct involvement. Meanwhile, in Europe, attention is also focused on diplomacy in the Middle East as leaders push forward the renewed peace efforts. The European Union's foreign policy chief has called for a stronger action on human rights and accountability as EU leaders and international partners met in Brussels to advance fresh efforts toward a two-state solution between Israelis and Palestinians. European Union Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas had said the bloc can and must do more to ensure respect for human rights and accountability as European partners gathered in Brussels to reaffirm support for the Palestinian Authority and a renewed push for a two-state solution. Kallas also stressed on the need for sustained political engagement to advance a credible two-state solution.
The New York Declaration provides an important political framework to guide these efforts, and while such commitments have already become actions, we can and must do more to ensure respect for human rights and accountability, to protect the Palestinian people, and to put the two-state solution solidly on the table again. And this is the only way that both the Palestinians and Israelis can live in safety, dignity, and peace. The remarks came during a high-level conference attended by Mohammad Mustafa, Prime Minister of the Palestinian Authority, who described the current moment as one marked by immense tragedy, but also a narrow but real opportunity to shift from war toward a just and lasting peace based on the two-state framework. Mustafa stressed that Gaza is not a humanitarian file alone, but an integral part of
of the State of Palestine, calling for the implementation of UN Security Council Resolution 2803 and the swift execution of the transitional arrangements to enable the Palestinian Authority's return to governance in Gaza and the institutional reunification of Gaza and the West Bank.
We gather today at a moment defined by both immense tragedy and a narrow but real opportunity to move from war toward a just and lasting peace, grounded in the two-state solution. Gaza is not a humanitarian file alone. It's an integral part of the State of Palestine. The successful implementation of the United Nations Security Council Resolution 2803 must lead to the swift execution of the transitional arrangements that enable the full return of the Palestinian Authority to governing Gaza and the institutional reunification of Gaza and the West Bank.
The Brussels meeting forms part of broader European diplomatic efforts to consolidate international support for post-conflict governance arrangements and revive long-stalled political negotiations between Israelis and Palestinians. Shifting gears to South Asia, as India has launched the first phase of what is expected to be the world's largest population census, deploying more than 3 million officials in a nationwide effort to gather updated demographic data over the next year. India is holding the first phase of what is said to be the world's largest population census, with more than 3 million officials to take part in a vast counting exercise over the next year. The census is expected to provide updated demographic data critical for policy planning across sectors, including healthcare, education, and infrastructure. The South Asian nation, home to an estimated 1.4 billion people, faces mounting challenges in providing electricity, food, and housing to its growing population. The findings are also expected to play a key role in shaping government's policy and long-term economic planning, making it one of the most significant data-gathering operations in the country's recent history. Officials say the exercise will use digital tools in several regions to improve accuracy and speed of data collection. The government has described the initiative as essential for tracking migration patterns and urbanization trends. Special focus will also be placed on remote and underserved areas to ensure full national coverage. The results are likely to influence the future budget allocations and welfare programs. Officials say the exercise comes at a time when India is facing increasing pressure on essential resources such as electricity, food supply, housing, and urban infrastructure due to rapid population growth and ongoing urbanization. And from population data to planetary concerns, a warming El Nino climate pattern is expected to return by mid-year. The United Nations has warned, raising concerns about another surge in global temperatures after the last event helped push the planet to record highs.
The warming El Nino weather phenomenon, which pushed global temperatures to record highs the last time around, is expected to back in the middle of this year, the UN has said. The United Nations Weather and Climate Agency said El Nino conditions were likely as early as the May to July 3-month window. The World Meteorological Organization, WMO, meanwhile said early signs indicated a strong event. El Nino is a naturally occurring climate phenomenon that warms surface temperatures in the central and eastern equatorial Pacific Ocean. It brings changes in winds, pressure, and rainfall patterns. Conditions oscillate between El Nino and its opposite La Nina, with neutral conditions in between. The last El Nino contributed to making 2023 the second hottest year on record and 2024 the all-time high. El Nino typically occurs every 2 to 7 years and lasts around 9 to 12 months. The WMO said its latest monthly global seasonal climate update showed a clear shift in conditions in the equatorial Pacific. Sea surface temperatures are rising rapidly, pointing to a likely return of El Nino conditions as early as May to July. Forecasts indicate a nearly global dominance of above normal land surface temperatures in the next 3 months.
In an update from the world of space, Blue Origin has grounded its New Glenn rocket following a failed satellite deployment on its third ever mission, triggering a Federal Aviation Administration investigation into the incident and its technical causes.
The 322-foot-tall New Glenn rocket launched on April 19 from Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida, marking its third flight and carrying the AST Space Mobile Bluebird 7 satellite designed for direct-to-cell phone connectivity. While the launch initially appeared successful, including a smooth liftoff and a successful landing of the reusable first stage booster on the drone ship Jacqueline in the Atlantic Ocean, problems emerged during the upper stage flight. According to Blue Origin, one of the upper stage's BE-3U engines failed to deliver the required thrust during a critical burn, causing the payload to be released into an incorrect low Earth orbit. The U.S. Federal Aviation Administration said it will oversee a Blue Origin-led investigation, participate in all stages of the process, and approve the company's final report, including any corrective actions before the rocket can fly again. The setback comes at a crucial time for New Glenn, which is expected to support future commercial and NASA missions, including planned launches tied to the Artemis lunar program. Despite the failure, company officials and NASA representatives have stressed continued confidence in the rocket's development, noting the successful recovery and reuse of its booster as a key milestone.
Now turning to culture and the arts, France is blending tradition with modern performance in a unique setting in a bid to blend classical art with contemporary dance inside the museum space.
As part of the exhibition, Michelangelo Rodin Living Bodies, the Louvre Museum in Paris is hosting 8 dancers from the Paris Opera Ballet for 2 special performances titled Stars Beneath the Pyramid, aimed at bringing together visual art and a live performance within the museum space. The performances are designed to foster an artistic dialogue between sculpture, classical art, and contemporary dance, with organizers highlighting the interaction between movement and the museum's historic collection as a central theme of the event. Organizers say the aim is to make art more engaging by connecting movement with classical artworks. According to planning for the Louvre's Auditorium and Performing Arts Department, the initiative seeks to create a dialogue between the arts by integrating choreography with the exhibition environment. Visitors will be able to see live dance performances set against the museum's iconic sculptures, creating a unique cultural experience. The event forms part of the museum's broader effort to expand interdisciplinary programming, blending performing arts with fine art exhibitions to engage audiences in new interpretive experiences.
And in Southeast Asia, efforts are underway to preserve centuries-old cultural traditions of palm leaf manuscripts preserved through handcrafting that continues to safeguard cultural and religious heritage.
In southern Vietnam, a centuries-old tradition of palm leaf manuscripts known as Kin La Buang continues to preserve the cultural heritage of the Khmer community. These manuscripts are a unique form of book made by carefully engraving text onto dried palm leaves. At Mua Pagoda in An Giang province, artisans use a wooden stylus with a metal tip to carve each character by hand before applying a mixture of charcoal and oil to make the writing visible. One craftsman, 80-year-old Chao Chen, has been practicing the technique since 1968 and remains dedicated to keeping the tradition alive. The process is highly detailed, beginning with selecting suitable leaves in the forest, then treating and drying them before engraving each line. Completing a single page can take 2 to 3 months due to the precision required. Today, more than 100 pagodas in the region are actively preserving these manuscripts through careful maintenance and restoration. Monks regularly clean the leaves to protect them from termites and mold, while translations are used to teach younger generations. An Giang province alone holds more than 170 sets of palm leaf scriptures, totaling over 900 volumes. Beyond recording knowledge, these manuscripts play a vital role in maintaining cultural identity and passing traditions from one generation to the next.
From heritage preservation to vibrant celebrations, thousands gathered in Denmark's capital Copenhagen for the Night Glow Festival, where illuminated hot air balloons lit up City Hall Square in a large-scale public display.
The free event transformed the heart of the Danish capital into a brightly lit spectacle as rows of hot air balloons were inflated and illuminated in carefully timed sequences. Organizers choreographed the display to music, with the balloons glowing in rhythm to widely recognized tracks, including the Star Wars theme and songs by Swedish DJ Avicii. Large crowds packed City Hall Square throughout the evening, many capturing the show on their phones as the balloons pulsed with light against the night sky. Families, tourists, and local residents gathered shoulder to shoulder, creating a festive atmosphere despite the stationary display. While the event delivered a striking visual performance, some spectators had expected to see the balloons lift off. Organizers did not immediately clarify why flights did not take place, though such decisions are often influenced by weather conditions or safety requirements. The Nightglow Festival is designed as an accessible public event, drawing visitors with its combination of light, music, and aviation displays, even when the balloons remain grounded.
Meanwhile, in the Philippines, a local festival is not only celebrating tradition but also challenging gender norms, as dozens of young women competed at a local festival in Masbate, a cattle ranching province known for its rodeo tradition.
The event, held each year in Masbate, the self-declared cattle capital of the Philippines, features women competing alongside men in rodeo events that test skill, strength, and horsemanship. For many of the female participants, it is both a cultural celebration and a statement of equality in a traditionally male-dominated arena. Rodeo cowgirl and veterinary student Riza Matutino says the competitors are determined to prove their place in the sport. But despite their participation, women face a structural limitation. Unlike men, they have no professional category beyond school-level competition in Masbate. This means their rodeo careers typically end upon graduation, leaving many to step away from the sport even as their male counterparts continue professionally. The festival remains a major local attraction, blending cultural identity with livestock tradition while also highlighting ongoing conversations about opportunity and equality in the Philippine sport.
Now, from celebration to spiritual reflection, Sri Lanka continues its journey promoting peace and unity as a second group of Buddhist monks arrives to take part in the Walk for Peace campaign.
A second delegation of monks has arrived in Sri Lanka to take part in the Walk for Peace pilgrimage aimed at promoting unity and compassion. The group traveled from Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport in the United States to join the international event. The pilgrimage, scheduled from April 21 to April 28, 2026, is being held under state patronage, highlighting its national significance. It is led by the Most Venerable Panakara Thero and centers on a procession involving a sacred Bodhi sapling from the Jaya Sri Mahabodhi in Anuradhapura. The initiative is backed by multiple government bodies, including the Presidential Secretariat and ministries responsible for cultural and public administration affairs. Security and logistics are being coordinated by the Tri-Forces and the police, along with several supporting institutions. Organizers say the program reflects Sri Lanka's spiritual heritage and aims to strengthen international goodwill. The procession is expected to attract attention as it moves across the country over the coming week.
And in Japan, a beloved cultural festival is being reintroduced in a special seasonal showcase, bringing one of Japan's most iconic summer events to a wider audience of tourists and locals.
A traditional awa dance event has been held in Tokushima City in southwestern Japan, bringing one of the country's most famous summer festivals into the spring tourist season. The Awa Dance Festival is normally held every summer, but this special performance was organized to promote the cultural attraction to both visitors and locals. The event featured groups of skilled dancers performing to traditional Japanese music, played on instruments such as flutes and drums. Special seating was arranged in a city park where spectators watched and recorded the performances. The dancers also showcased contrasting styles, with female dancers presenting a graceful version and male dancers performing a more powerful style. Visitors described the performance as a striking display of unity, also noting the charm of the children's dancers alongside the more experienced performers.
To cutting-edge innovation where humanoid robots competed alongside human runners in a half marathon in Beijing in a public showcase of advancing robotics and artificial intelligence. China has staged a half marathon in Beijing featuring humanoid robots competing alongside human runners in a demonstration of rapidly advancing robotics and artificial intelligence technology. The event showcased multiple robot models designed to mimic human movement while completing the full race distance, highlighting improvements in balance, endurance, and real-time decision-making systems. Organizers say the competition is intended to examine the limits of current robotic engineering under real-world conditions. Spectators gathered along the course to watch the unusual format, which blended athletic competition with technological exhibition. Many viewed the event as a sign of how robotics is increasingly moving from lab research into public and performance settings. They said with the rapid pace of technological development, robots will soon surpass humans in many areas, not only in speed but also in AI-driven behavior. Well, this brings us to the end of this episode of The World This Week. We hope you enjoyed as much as we did bringing it to you. We shall see you again next week with a new episode. Also, do follow us on our website www.nepaltelevision.com, our social media handles, as well as our YouTube channel. Till then, take care and bye-bye.
The year 2014, in course of a conversation, a security analyst asked me, Shivani, don't you feel the world is getting chaotic by the day? Fast forward to 2026, the world today is not just in transition. It is in a state of entrenched volatility. From the shifting tectonic global politics to the digital grip of AI-driven warfare, we are witnessing a global chaos that traditional realism fails to explain. But what if the remedy isn't found in more weaponry or treaties, but in the very science of how we as humans exist? Welcome to Geopod. I'm Shivani Thapa-Bosnet. Joining me today is a person who bridges the gap between the internal vacuum and external clutter. Gurudev L.P. Bhanu Sharma, the founder of Jeevan Vigyan. He is a chartered accountant by education, but a systems architect of the soul by calling. Welcome to the show, Gurudev Sharma. Such a privilege it is to have you with us here at NTV World Studios.
Thank you.
Let's dive in to the very, very fundamental question, Gurudev, as we get set to begin the conversation. A quick pan around and everybody knows that we are the most connected generation of all times in human history, right? But yet we are plagued by profound loneliness, and I'm told that loneliness is going to be the problem of the next century, right? We as institutions, communities, or even nations lobby for peace at different forums. But seldom do we find that in our living rooms. Now, in this very backdrop, the modern human, as we are equipped with all sorts of amenities and comfort, yet the most common question I get to hear is, why am I not happy?
Beautifully put. This age we are connected globally through technology, but inside it's a deep disconnect. And unless you are able to connect with yourself, all the connections that you have in terms of, with the society, with the world at large, it becomes superficial. So this superficiality is there in the very core of modern technological framework. And as you put it correctly, what I see is unless you are able to connect with yourself, you will never be able to communicate with anyone around. Okay? So the deep connection which spirituality brings, which meditation brings, the deep connection is going to be the #1 superpower for the future. You can be lonely even in a crowd of 10,000 people, because that loneliness is inside you. The more you connect with yourself, the connection with the world, the connection with everyone around will be very spontaneous, otherwise it becomes superficial. So this trend of AI, warfare and whatnot has a very, very deep hole in it. And what will address this deeper problem of humanity, this loneliness, this inability to connect, this is the soul connection, and everyone has to be the architect of the soul. Okay? So that heart-to-heart communication, that heart-to-heart engagement has to be the #1 agenda for the future.
Is our Eastern life science merely a set of rituals, or is it a technical manual for our human mind which we have simply stopped reading?
Spirituality cannot be put into rituals, but through rituals you are able to connect. There is a deep misunderstanding among people that spirituality and religion, they are one and the same. They are not. Religion is something that you believe. Spirituality is something you experience. Religion is something that tells you, probably my religion is different from your religion. But if you are a spiritual person, you can never say that your spirituality is different from my spirituality. So that way, the science, the hidden science that connects all spiritual traditions is the spiritual, all religious traditions is the spirituality. So spirituality connects. And spirituality is experience-based. It is also science-based. That's why we call this Jiva Vigyan, the science of living. And rituals have their own place, but spirituality is much more than rituals. What does a ritual do? For example, when you're trying to talk to your mom, what do? You just think about her, or you go and talk to her. When you want to go and talk to her, you need her there physically, right? So when you want to develop that connection with the divine, whoever or whatever in form it may be, if there is something there, it helps you. Okay? So rituals have been a part of all this process, but not the only part. Today, everything that you have, your mobile phone, your gadgets, everything, they are also some type of rituals, You look at your phone early in the morning when you get up, the first thing probably after you drink your water, you reach out to your phone, right? So it has become a ritual. And this way, slowly the culture is emerging. Rituals for us have been very different. And if you see the rituals in this part of the country, is this part of the world, rituals in this part of the world have been there to connect with the nature, because we are the most nature-connected country. This is what the Guardian also found out about a couple of months back. But secondly, if you don't want to follow a particular ritual, it's fine. If rituals help you, good. Go ahead with the rituals. If rituals, if you think that you are much more than rituals, so rituals do not help you, then you don't need rituals. You need that system and that science to connect with yourself. So whatever you know about yourself, the same thing you're trying to project onto others. And if you know that you are not just a body, you are not just a mind, you are not just the thoughts that are floating in your mind, you are much more than that. You are a spiritual being. This country, Nepal, the Himalayan tradition has taught us how to connect with oneself before connecting with the people around. Has taught us how to talk to oneself before talking to anyone else. Has taught us how to master our own mind before trying to master anything else. So this is going to be the most important contribution to human consciousness. See, tomorrow the most important infrastructure will be that of consciousness. Because we already have the technology, right? We already have the platforms. Everything, we have all material positions. We have bridges, we have roads, we have buildings, we have computers, supercomputers, okay? The aeroplanes and supersonic aeroplanes and fighters and weapons and whatnot. Now what we need is the right set of mind to be able to use all this in the greater good of humanity. This is one planet, this is one system, and this is one humanity. You do not have two humanities. Spirituality says, yes, all of humanity, okay, they are same. All human beings are same. Okay? And then it also says that if you love yourself, you will be able to love everyone else. This is what is lacking today.
Where did we fail as a society or a nation? Because it wasn't until recently that people started differentiating spirituality from religion, because largely spirituality is so embedded in religion in Nepal, right? In almost all the practices and in all the cultures and communities. So where did we fail?
This is a science-based practice, but we handed this over only as a belief. Because if it is a belief, then you may not believe. My belief is not your belief, right? So we handed this over to our people, and we also took it as a belief system. Now, belief does not bring in anything. This is the major disconnect that we faced maybe over the last 1 century. This is what I see. And we forgot that just mere reading of scriptures, mere reading of textbooks is not a spirituality. Okay? We also forgot that just visiting temples and gumbas and mosques It's not spirituality. No, the deep love, the deep connection you bring in, your awareness, your presence, and your personal experience, they become spirituality. Now, I'm so happy that the new generation does not believe in any beliefs. They may be 2,000 years old, they may be 1,400 years old, they may be 6,000 years old, or they may be 10,000 years old. A belief is a belief, but your experience is your own experience.
Our ancestors lived by, Vasudhaiva Kutumbaka, but meaning the world is one family. That's how they've lived by, and they've passed this on. But today we live by the notion of my fence, my wall, me, myself, right? That the I is so central. How does the philosophy that you're talking, the Jivan Vigyan philosophy, bridge this gap between self and surrounding? Just to streamline, to be more precise, if I am peaceful, does my neighbor actually feel that peace? Or is it just a mere poetic thinking?
There have been a number of researches on this. But there are so many things that science cannot measure. Our ancestors, the rishis, the saints and sages of the Himalayas, the yogis, the gurus, they completely map the human mind and also the soul. So that whole map is available. And luckily, a major part of that is now backed by science, backed by logic, backed by experience, and backed by evidence also. And for example, today science says that when I am at peace, I spread that aura all around, and at least whatever I am feeling inside, up to at least 8 feet around me, that aura is immediately spread out. But if my experience of peace is so authentic, so clear, that at least 25 miles will be affected by my peace. And if I can experience peace at the level of my soul, probably I will be able to connect with the whole of not only humanity, the whole of earth, not only earth, all creatures, and all, the whole of universe I will be able to connect. This is what science is slowly finding out. The Himalayan tradition says, don't go to the world to get something. Go to the world to give something. This makes the whole foundation, very different. This is a complete change in perspective. So when you say Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, you are not saying that this is my family and extort your family, and just bring in whatever you want to know. It says, if this is my family, it is my duty to serve my family. And no doubt, look at the history of Nepal. For a long time, never in history we have exported any weapons. We have never exported terrorism. Okay, we have never exported conflict. In the form of Buddha, we exported peace to the whole world. Right? In the form of meditation, we exported the deep soul connection. In the form of yoga, we exported the whole system of being healthy, not just physically but also mentally. In the form of naturopathy, we have exported wellness, not illness. What Nepal has brought to the human consciousness is profound. And I think it's time that we started looking into it. We started researching into it. Look at the world today, the whole world today, the whole wars, okay? The whole wars and everything that the world is doing today is trying to grab something from someone else. But Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam says, go out to the world at large, but with compassion in your heart.
Gurudev,
and give it to everyone. Yes.
Right. If that is the case, and despite this richness that we've carried, since ages, since ancient times, why has our society become so transactional?
I think the whole problem lies in our education and upbringing. This Eastern philosophy, this culture, this Oriental philosophy does not find a place in education. does not find a place in family, in growth, okay, in how we nurture our kids, in how we nurture our young ones. So we have paid heavy price for this. I think it has become so costly for us. Okay? But a truth is a truth, no matter whether you own it or not. One day or the other, you have to own it. Okay? The whole universe is one. Look at this word universe. Uni means one, right? It's one. Look at the Sanskrit word for universe. It is Brahmanda. Brahma means the whole, the totality. Anda means body, the body of one being, right? The body of one being. Now, even we had forgotten, as Suraiti pointed out, now it is time for us to educate and re-educate ourselves first, and then slowly take this message to the whole world. But I think we are running out of time. The world needs this message. The world needs this orientation. The whole globe needs this, part of the civilization, okay, human civilization. Now, let's gear up completely for this.
Security isn't just tanks and missiles. As you say, and from what I read from this conversation thus far, it's more mental health and social cohesion. Now, can Eastern philosophy actually strengthen a society's immune system against the external volatility?
The answer is a big yes. Because when you connect with yourself, when you connect with your own nature, and through that, when you start establishing connections all around, you develop not just inner peace, but also you develop that feeling of inner safety. Okay? And when there is inner safety, when there is inner security inside yourself, and that when that becomes, when that connects with the whole society, you start developing that immune system. The whole society develops that immune system. The whole society will think that, yes, I belong here. Why is there so much of threat? Geopolitically, internationally, whatever you call it. Why? Because everyone says that I do not belong here. Or I say that, Shivani, you don't belong here. And you say that, no, Gurudev, you do not belong here. Right? You do not belong to this world. Somehow, whatever you are doing is very different. You do not belong to this world. We want to eliminate each other. And this knowledge, many people think that this is just soft power. No, this is not soft power. This is the most important power. Humanity, a very deep connection, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, wellness. These are the superpowers of the future. If the globe has to survive, if this planet has to survive, if this planet has to thrive, then we have to bring this into whatever we do. So tomorrow, what I see is 20 years down the line, security will not be just based on what weapons I have. Will also be based on how peaceful we are. If I am peaceful, I give out that aura, I give away that aura of peace everywhere. Okay? I feel so self-confident. The whole society will be a very confident society. The whole society will be a structured society. And the whole society will not think of destroying anyone. There will be dialogues for the first time. There will be communication. And what I see is, through the Eastern civilization, okay, through the learnings, through the teachings of the ancient saints, there will be communication, dialogue, and understanding for the first time. Because what do you bring to your meeting rooms? Okay? When you bring that insecurity, when you bring in that threat, when you bring in that challenge into your meeting room, your dialogue is completely devastated. It is destroyed. But when you bring that sense of peace, when you bring that wonderful aura, when you bring that connect, that deep spiritual connect, your sense of peace, your sense of security will be very different. You will not you will not be afraid of anyone, and you will not try to intimidate anyone. The one who is afraid starts intimidating everyone else. The one who feels secure, who is not afraid, who is fearless, will never be interested in bringing in that fear in someone else. So I see a very different society coming up now. Okay? This is where we need to contribute. This is what we need to learn. This is what we need to educate us and educate the whole humanity into now.
Nepal very recently led the UNGA resolution to adopt the International Wellness Day coming April 15. I could see you were one among the central figures putting this forward, right?
I've always been so convinced that Nepal is not a lost nation. It cannot be a failed state. We must have something very deep and something very impactful and powerful to give to the humanity. Look at everything we have. Everything is divine, everything is pristine, everything is sacred, everything is holy. This is what the whole world needs. And this word wellness encompasses everything that we have. The whole tradition, okay? The whole spiritual tradition that has run into tens of thousands of years, the whole spiritual legacy. Last December 2025, the whole world was celebrating International Meditation Day, and we were there in the UN headquarters in Newark, USA. We made a presentation representing Nepal. Then we talked to many people there. We talked to the ambassadors, the permanent representatives there. We talked to the diplomats. We talked to scientific communities. And everyone was so curious about what Nepal can bring into the plate now. Because the people told me, see, Nepal, we have heard, has a very, very rich spiritual tradition. And where are you now? What are you going to bring in? Then we came up with the concept of International Wellness Day there. We made a firm resolution in our mind that we will request the government, we will lobby with the government, okay, to go in for the International Wellness Day. And that's where the concept started. Immediately after I came back from US, the very next day, I sent a proposal to the government, to the foreign ministry. And these beautiful people, these intelligent people, they understood the concept, whole concept. And they went ahead, and in less than a couple of months, we had the International Wellness Day. And Nepal is the sole proposer, They not only led the proposal, it is the sole proposer of the International Wellness Day. And 142 countries endorsed this. 40 countries are the co-sponsors, including China and India. Because this belongs to the whole of East now, this belongs to the whole of East. And I'm so happy that after the UN General Assembly adopted this resolution, the new government has come up with very clear policies and plans to execute this. April 15 is going to be celebrated as International Wellness Day. This is not just another day. This is what human beings, the whole humanity, has been waiting for.
So as you said, certainly it was a milestone, but let us look at the corridors of power where you work, Gurudev. We often hear that power corrupts, but Eastern tradition gives us the Raj Rishi, meaning the leader who rules with the heart of a sage. Is it just a mythological ideal?
There are two types of rulers. The first type of ruler is one who does not have a heart, but knows everything outside, rules the world, rules the country, not based on love, not based on understanding, not based on that Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, not based on a deep philosophy. The power is there. Maybe the people voted. The mass power is there. The legal process is there. You may be very, very good ruler from the outside. But if you do not have that heart, if you do not truly love your country, your people, and the humanity at large, what will you do? Slowly the power, slowly the power starts corrupting you. Unconsciously, the power starts corrupting you, and it corrupts you absolutely. This is what they say, right? Now, but our methodology has been very, very different. Okay, I think we have come up with a wonderful term that has been lost for generations now. Raja Rishi. Raja Rishi means a king or a leader who is also a rishi or a sage or a saint inside. That very big heart. Okay. Now, if you talk of great people in the politics, maybe also in international relations, okay, you talk of Mahatma Gandhi, talk of Abraham Lincoln, you talk of Nelson Mandela. Okay, when you talk of Gautam Buddha, what are you talking about? They had the power, but they never misused the power. In fact, the power made them more responsible. This is what Rajarshi is, and this is what the Eastern tradition, the Eastern philosophy, I'm not just saying tradition, not just saying philosophy, the Eastern civilization brings into the whole world. And this Rajarshi is going to be the new form of leadership. In fact, if you look at the development of political leadership, now they say that political leadership has to be servant leadership. Okay, servant leadership is the new buzzword for political leadership. A leader is not a ruler, but a servant of the people. And servant it's not just a literal term, a real servant of the people. And Rajarshi says, you lead through your intelligence, okay, but you take care of your people through your heart. In fact, all the kings that our scriptures talk about, all the kings, the popular kings, they have been Rajarshis. And philosophically, politically, and diplomatically, this is what we can bring to the whole international community.
Right. I can see you engaging at various tiers of leadership, engaging with them in training sessions, and I've seen you at top tiers at all levels. When you just feed my curious mind, when you sit with them, do you see that spark or that capacity in them to become this rishis or the modern day servants that you just said? Do you see a spark of it? Or is it the vivad or the state, like the loud of the state, too loud for them to, hear the vigyan of their own conscience?
You posed a very difficult question to me, Shivani, but I think I must answer this question. After meeting, after talking to a number of people, someday, my heart, starts blossoming, I become so cheerful, so happy. Yes, I got someone here. I got someone who can understand this message, who can execute and carry forward this message. Yes, there are people here. There are people, okay? In different generations, in different age groups, there are people. But the society up till now has been structured in such a way that good people cannot come to the front. Right? So now slowly we have to find out the right people. They are there, and they are there in good numbers. For example, if you want to run a company, you hire the best people, right? You hire the best people. You try to find out who is the best person around. So when you want to run a country, or when you want to run the world, don't you try to find out who is the best person? I've always been a diehard optimist, okay? But slowly when I started working with these young people also, this new team, I am hopeful, I am optimistic that these people will learn. There are so many things that we need to learn, because for over 2 centuries we have been challenged, we have been threatened, okay? And deep in the psyche, in our collective consciousness, somehow we have developed that inferiority complex. Okay, that is there. But meditation and the whole the science of wellness slowly remedies your inferiority complex. It makes you a wonderful human being who can do something very good. And I think if we continue this process, we will be able to develop world-class leaders.
Very needed and an important intervention as well, because they say, you know, state is just a collection of minds, and we really do not want minds that create a cluttered and, you know, laws that are pretty chaotic, right? So we are living in a time of polycrisis. There are crises of climate, then there are political instability, conflicts of all sorts. Let's try and be a little blunt here, because philosophy certainly doesn't stop any war or conflict, right? What is the tangible value here?
Oh yeah. Last time when I spoke in the United Nations, I put forward a statement there. The modern wars are not fought in the borders, they are fought in human minds. Understand that mind is the central thing, okay? And your mind is run by philosophies, not by anything that happens outside. So if you can change your mind, you change everything. It's all about changing the mind. It's all about bringing in a new mind. It's not the question of, you know, a new philosophy can change, working together to change the paradigm. So it's not the question of only philosophy, you know. For example, the way you talk to me, I can see that you are guided by some philosophies. You are making a dialogue here, and you are not in the killing room. Why? Because you have a philosophy there, right? You have an understanding there. Similarly, this new understanding has to be brought in. It's not that it's not there. It's there. Even look at the people, you know. Look at the people who are completely, victimized by war. Look at their faces. Don't you see hope there? I see so much of hope for the humanity. I see so much of hope for the humanity. And the hope that I'm talking about is not just a fantasy. It's not an imagination. This hope can be made real. And if we can, you know, train people in meditation, even 5 minutes of meditation, Shivani, it changes your perspective for good. Even 5 minutes of meditation. Now science tells you very clearly that, you know, all forms of violence come from your stress. A stressed mind becomes a violent mind. Okay? And meditation is the antidote to stress. Okay? When you meditate even for 5 minutes, you know, you have a very different perspective. Instead of, you know, destroying, you want to create something. Your destructive energy becomes a creative energy. And remember, don't look at the weapons, don't look at, you know, the fighter jets around. Look at the people who are behind them. And if these people can be exposed to this methodology of learning, we can see a better world. And we have to do it. Just take another example. When do you need light the most? You need light the most, okay? You want light all around when it is dark, right? So when the whole world is into wars, okay, into a number of problems, into polycrisis that you talked about, okay, don't you think someone has to switch on the light? That switch is inside you. I see a great hope for humanity. I see a great hope. We learn through a number of mistakes. Yes, we're making a number of mistakes, but you know, people like us, people like you, who have understood spirituality, who have tested this Eastern tradition, now must work hard. I must own something, you know. And then what I must tell to myself is, if I don't work hard, another person will die tomorrow. Another person will be the victim of another war. Another country will be the victim of another war. So for us, it is an emergency. It's a peace emergency, not a war emergency now. We're spreading peace, we're spreading wellness. It is a peace emergency now.
You need to find the switch, and you need to tame the mind. And meditation could be one tool. I really reap that. But then there is a huge struggle the mankind is having to face or reel under at this moment. So if you could shed light on the how question now, like how does the Eastern concept of samayama, equanimity, right, survive in this era of 24/7, algorithm outreach?
If you look at yourself, it is your mind who is doing all this. Your mind is at the core. And what is samyama? Samyama means equanimity. It's not equality outside. It is equanimity inside. And when do you develop equanimity? You develop equanimity when you become meditative. Right? And then forget these wars. Just look at relationship in your family. The one who has some form of equanimity will be able to connect the whole family. Look at your organization. Who connects the organization? Who builds the organization? People who have equanimity. Look at the nation. Okay? The ups and downs will always be there. The upheavals will always be there. The vicissitudes will always be there. But equanimity, rightly propounded by Shiva, Krishna, Buddha, Ram, okay, and all sages, and that's what we are working into. This is going to be the technology of the future. The leaders have to develop equanimity, and equanimity does not mean that I'm indifferent to whatever is happening. Equanimity means, okay, inside I'm affected, I remain unaffected, so I'll be able to take the right decision. I'm not overwhelmed. I cannot be pressurized. I'm not volatile. Okay? I'm not susceptible to everything that happens outside. I have my own mind. I maintain my freedom. I maintain my intelligence to decide what is right for everyone.
It's a great power.
This is equanimity.
And how do we develop that?
Naturally, you see so many things happening, and slowly you start developing equanimity, right? But the Eastern tradition has brought in spirituality. This whole training of spirituality is all about developing equanimity inside yourself. And Bhagavad Gita says equanimity is the highest form of yoga. Samatvam yoga uchyate. There are methods, there are scientific tools to practice. Okay? There are very, very different schools, philosophies to practice this. And I'm so happy that Nepal, although this is a small country in terms of the geography, but it brings in almost all the spiritual tradition in its landscape. It's a large canvas. I'm not saying Nepal alone. The whole Eastern tradition, the whole Eastern philosophy, they are there now. They have to find an inroad into education system. They have to find an inroad into your practice, into your homes, into your offices, into the secretary's offices, into president's buildings. Okay, if you want to develop a better world, we want a better world, right? If you want a better world, we must choose something that's very good. We must choose something that is better than everything else, right? And spirituality comes in handy here. It is there. It is there. We can never close our eyes to spirituality any longer. We cannot dare to do so, because you may not have time even to open your eyes after that. Okay? You may be non-existent the another moment if you close your eyes to the simple truths of life. They are there. We are human beings, and humanity is a very, 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 very powerful thing. And spirituality is part of the humanity. And this is what we bring in.
Some would say this philosophy is too soft, for the very hard world of geopolitics, right? What would you say to those skeptics? How would you respond to these skeptics who say we need, more bullets and less breathing exercises?
Even these skeptics, they come to us and tell, and they tell us, I need meditation. I need meditation. See, a restless mind is never a happy mind. Everyone wants to be happy. Everyone wants to be happy. Everyone wants to be contented, right? So where do you bring in that happiness? Nothing else can bring happiness to you. This is the only science that can bring you happiness. So this is not just the soft power. This is the most important power of the future. And if you ignore this power, if you think that a bullet is the only reply to another bullet, within no time, you will see that everything is over. We have to look at the whole humanity now. We have to go back to Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam again. We have to go back to our education again. We have to go back to our roots again. Okay? And this is only what will keep you alive.
Nepal sits between two huge global giants like powerhouses. Now, we've talked this off air as well. How can we, Nepal, like as you portrayed, use this very philosophical heritage as a genuine power tool?
I'm not positioning just Nepal. Okay? Nepal is one of the players, because Nepal is the source of all this, but not the only source, it's one of the sources. What we see is, and what I see is, countries like India, China, and many other, countries who belong to this part of the world, we share a common lineage. Okay, we share a common ancestry in terms of this knowledge. So all of us have to work in cohesion now. All our the different organizations like SARC, okay, and even larger organizations like BIMSTEC and other organizations have to learn this and have to bring in this one thing. Why did we develop this organization known as SARC in the beginning? Okay, this is not just an association of a few countries. This has to be the association of a type of philosophy. Okay, this is the philosophy that will give a new lease of life to the whole world. And why are we trying to collaborate? What are we collaborating in? For example, if I want to work together with India, together with China, what would that be? This I see as the number one agenda for the future. Okay, this is for international collaboration, and this is for small geographical collaboration also. This is for international collaboration, and our diplomats, our government, our diplomats must have this soft power before they start engaging with the diplomats all around, because they need to know what and who we are. Okay, we represent the Eastern philosophy. We represent this culture. We represent this civilization, and this has to be there. This has to get now. This has to get out of its cave. This has to get out of its four walls, and through all diplomatic actions, all political dialogues. Even in what I see is, I see this at play in economics also, because people want to learn this, and people want to learn this. This is number one tourism for us. Okay, this country can be the hub of spirituality and wellness. In fact, about a couple of years back, after we conducted or completed our Virat Chakra Vigyan, the Mega Chakra Vigyan in Lumbini, all the political parties, head of government, we sat together and we came up with a 5-point resolution. One of them was to develop Nepal as the spiritual hub. The efforts have already started. Okay, we can see so many things happening all around. Now we must reposition ourselves. Okay, we must brand ourselves. We must come together now. The better forces, the good forces have to come together, not just the evil forces. This is what I see.
Right. And as we move towards concluding this conversation, Gurudev, on a very deeply personal level, beyond, all the books, your practices, the UN resolutions, and even your sessions at the centers, How has practicing Jivan Vigyan or life science shaped your own worldview when you look at this chaos of 2026?
My upbringing, my whole upbringing has been like that of anyone else's. But slowly, you know, I think I was 7 or 8 years of age. I was fallen sick. Okay? I had a fever, and then I was very weak and feeble then. I was trying to stand up, but something happened inside me. Okay? I passed out for some time, but then, you know, my family told me that I passed out for some time, but inside something happened, you know. Something surfaced inside. Okay? I could sense that. I had that awareness of whatever was happening inside me. And I immediately found out that no, the whole world that is outside is not the only world. There's a better world that is awaiting to be opened up, that is awaiting to be unveiled. And slowly, you know, I didn't understand what, you know, it was like an epiphany, you know. I didn't understand what that was. But slowly, when I started, reading so many books, I found out that what happened to me was meditation. Okay? And then I started developing practices for myself to begin with, you know, because I wanted to get back there. It happened accidentally. There was no system. But in another maybe about 15 years of time, I had developed methods and systems to go back. And what I found is, this is so simple. And our sages have been practicing this for a long time now, for thousands of years now. Now, why don't I share this with other people? And I started sharing very genuinely, you know. I never wanted to be a teacher of spirituality. Today also, I don't think I'm a teacher of spirituality. I just say, you know, I just share whatever I deeply experience. And then what I found out is, it helps everyone. It's a very simple tool, very simple practice. Okay, you don't need a belief system. You don't need to be a Hindu, or you don't need to convert yourself into a Buddhist. You don't need to change anything. Okay, you don't need to change your religion. You don't need to change your identity, your nationality, nothing. Okay, even haves and have-nots, they are not the criteria. It is there in every human being. So once I found, we started sharing. You know, today we are sharing. Jivan began established in Nepal. You know? We started our operations from Nepal. We're spread out in over 100 countries now, but we authentically and genuinely share what we experience. Okay, there's the culture of sharing. You know. And I think our tradition has understood, the Eastern tradition has understood the value of sharing.
Thank you, Gurudev. You only inspire me to look forward to another conversation with you, to understand and know your journey, and then the elements of the science that people so value across the world. Thank you so much for coming over and help us unwrap the secrets behind the chaos and maybe the journey towards the much aspired peace. Thank you so much.
You're most welcome. You know, to me also, the type of dialogue you brought in, you know, in terms of what we can do in terms of geopolitics, okay, in terms of the whole planet coming together. I think this interview this has happened for the first time to me. I must thank you for that, and I must thank Geopod and NTV World for having me here. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It's one strong pillar that NTV World stands on. So thank you one more time. As we head forward towards wrapping up this edition, power, as you could perceive, continues to shape the global order. But perhaps the deeper question is whether wisdom can reshape power. This conversation certainly compels us to contemplate that science of life isn't found in a textbook. It's found in the space between your thoughts. That's it from Geopod this week. I'm Shivani Thapa Bosnia. Let's bring the life back into our science. Namaste.
Pashupatinath is located in the eastern part of Kantipur city, approximately 5 kilometers away from Bagmati River. During the Lichavi period, the area surrounding Pashupatinath was known for animal rearing. This region includes Duasthali, Guveshwari, Gauri Ghat, Chaba Hill, Ganeshtan, and Kutuwali, all of which are part of the Pashupatinath area. In 1979 AD, UNESCO designated Pashupatinath as a World Heritage Site. The blessings of Pashupatinath have been revered since ancient times, indicating the site's significance long before the Lichavi dynasty. The presence of Jyotirlinga, a sacred representation of Lord Shiva, is mentioned in one of the ancient texts, highlighting its historical and religious importance. In the Gopal Raj dynasty, King Supuspadev described Pashupatinath as Varna Vyavastha. Following Supuspadev, every subsequent king incorporated the name of Pashupatinath within their own names. King Vaskar Dev offered 3 kosh to Pashupatinath, Brishdev presented a Trishul, Dharmadev contributed a Brishjos, and Narendra Dev offered various kosh made from different materials. Finally, Jayadev offered a lotus to Pashupatinath. In 1473 BS, Jyoti Malla renovated Pashupatinath. The priest Nityananda initiated the removal of the 3-story structure of Pashupatinath and reduced it to a single story. Queen Ganga, the consort of Shiva Singh, had the Bhasa Bamsawali written, which is still present today. During the Malla dynasty, the offerings made by the kings to Pashupatinath can still be seen today. Among these offerings, Lord Shiva at Pashupatinath received a copper roof and chadi and kamal. Finally, King Jai Singh presented a gold-made mekhla and a grand jatra was conducted. The temple's extraordinary design is attributed to the cumulative contributions of successive kings, each leaving their mark by adding distinctive elements to its architecture. This rich history of royal patronage is a primary factor contributing to the exceptional and intricate design of this revered temple.
Welcome to the new episode of The Hinterlands on NTV World. This weekly show brings together stories from the hinterlands of Nepal, takes you beyond the cities and highways into the heart of Nepal's rural landscapes. I am Rosina Rai and we will be leading you into this journey every week. Tonight we begin with a 300-year-old traditional Hanuman dance from Baglung in western Nepal. An interesting fact is that this ancient dance was performed again after a 9-year hiatus. Preserved for centuries by the Newar community, local conservation councils and other stakeholders are now making efforts to propose its inclusion in the UNESCO World Heritage List. A report. 13 pairs of Hanumans dressed in red costumes with skirts made of cloth tied around their waist dance to the beats of traditional instruments at the Kalika Bhagavati temple in western Nepal's Baglung district. These youths embodying the spirit of brahmacharya, self-restraint and purity, perform as a Hanuman in a centuries-old Hanuman dance. The age-old tradition was revived after a 9-year gap. While dancing, they strictly follow rhythmic patterns. It is a traditional Newar dance on the Ramayana, embodying the courage, discipline and devotion of Lord Hanuman. Locals shared joy as the much-anticipated 300-year-old Hanuman dance was finally showcased in the district once again. Closely tied to Baglung's cultural heritage, the performance is conducted after proper ritual worship within the temple premises. Traditionally, the dance was performed every 3 years, but it was halted for 9 years due to various challenges, including financial constraints and a lack of support from the local government.
हनुमान नाच बागलुङको अत्यन्त पुरानो संस्कारको रूपमा संस्कृतिको रूपमा चाहिँ रहेको छ र विशेष गरेर यो नेवारी कल्चरले यसलाई संरक्षण गरेर राखेको छ र यो बागलुङीहरूको एउटा गर्वको विषय पनि हो। यसलाई संरक्षण प्रवर्धन गर्नको लागि विश्व सम्पदा सूचीमा यसलाई चाहिँ सूचीकृत गर्नुपर्छ भनेर हामी स्थानीय सरकार पनि यसमा लागि परिरहेका छौँ।
पूजाको हकमा जुन छ पूजा भन्ने कुरा चाहिँ उहाँको आफ्नै चाहिँ मेन पुजारी हुनुहुँदैछ र उहाँले नै पूजा दिनुहुनेछ। तर परिसर हामीलाई यो कुरा छ परिसरमा हामीले चाहिँ हरेक विषयलाई चाहिँ जोड्न सकिन्छ।
This sacred Hanuman dance, preserved by the Newar community of Western Nepal as one of its oldest cultural traditions, is also being proposed for inclusion in the UNESCO World Heritage List. The records of the history show the dance first introduced in 1740 by Newar migrants from the Kathmandu Valley and has since become a cornerstone of local cultural identity. In recent years, there has been growing concern that tradition may lose their importance due to decline in intergenerational transmission. Our second report in the Hinterlands segment highlights a walk for wellness. Organized to mark Nepal's significant diplomatic achievement, it's a sole proposal to declare April 15 as an International Wellness Day, Arogya Divas, which has been adopted by the United Nations General Assembly. Let's dig deeper into this report. A few days ago, Nepal observed 15th March 2026 as the first International Wellness Day, Arogya Divas, following a resolution officially approved by the United Nations General Assembly. The declaration strongly supports Nepal's shift from volume-based tourism to value-based tourism, aiming to attract visitors seeking healing, mindfulness, and spiritual well-being. To mark this historic occasion, Nepal's Ministry of Foreign Affairs organized a wellness walk in Hathiban, Kathmandu to promote health and well-being.
संसारभरिबाट अहिले मानिसहरू आरोग्य खोजिरहेका छन्। त्यो आरोग्य प्राप्तिका लागि नेपाल आउनुस्। हामीसँग छन् त्यसका विधिहरू, त्यसका चाहिँ प्रक्रियाहरू, त्यसका स्थानहरू र त्यो भन्ने हिसाबले हामीले अगाडि सारेका हौं।
The program began at 7 a.m. with guided sessions of yoga, pranayama and meditation led by trained instructors. Participants then embarked on a 2-hour hike toward Champa Devi. Ambassadors from various countries, representatives of the United Nations, and senior officials from the government of Nepal actively took part in the event. During the hike, participants enjoyed a locally prepared organic meal, the beginning of the global efforts to integrate health, nature, and tourism. Stakeholders noted that the initiative reflects the government's vision of positioning Nepal as a premier global destination for well-being tourism. Beyond diplomatic engagement, the work served as a platform to showcase Nepal's holistic philosophy of wellness to the international community.
I think Nepal is a wonderful place to come and visit and experience this beautiful nature, spirituality, the cultural heritage. So I would highly recommend that people come and visit Nepal.
All these pictures are in Nepal. All these little clips of film are in Nepal. And this country contains so much diversity.
This movement, which promotes wellness as a way of life, holds a significant potential to position Nepal as a leading global hub for health and wellness tourism in the years ahead. We now travel to Sudur Paschim province, where the Thatched Free Roof campaign is being intensified. prioritizing improvised and high-risk families. The program aims to ensure safer housing and reduce risks such as house fires by replacing traditional thatched roofs with modern materials. Sarah Sopsanamarai explain more.
Bodikidar Rural Municipality in Doti district in the far west of Nepal has accelerated thatch-free roof campaign with the goal of ensuring secure housing in rural settlements to guide citizens toward modern and safe living conditions while reducing the hazards associated with traditional thatched roofs. The local government has prioritized distribution of corrugated zinc sheets. According to the rural municipality, priority is being given to impoverished families and those still living in vulnerable conditions under thatched roofs.
यसमा सरकारले अब दुःख परेको थियो अब सरकारले किनिदिनु सरकारलाई धन्यवाद छ ठिकै खड काट्ने खड लगाउनु छाउनु धेरै दुःख हुन्थ्यो त्यो धेरै सुविधा गरिदियो हाम्रो श्रीपासको सरकारले भन्नु.
The rural municipality has said primary goal of this campaign is to build safe housing as thatched roofs are highly vulnerable to natural disasters such as fires, heavy rains and windstorms. So far, approximately 300 households have been provided with zinc sheets. The vice chairperson of the rural municipality says there are plans to further expand this campaign in the coming days.
धेरै महिलाहरु दिदीबहिनीहरुलाई सारै समस्या भएको कारणले यो खरले जसको घरमा चाहिँ खरले छाना छाएका छन् उहाँहरुलाई चाहिँ यो कार्यबोझ घटाउनको लागि जस्ता पत्ता वितरण गर्ने भन्ने कार्यक्रम चाहिँ हामीले निर्वाचित हुने बित्तिकै चाहिँ हामीले त्यो कार्यक्रम राख्यौं र अहिलेसम्म समग्रमा चाहिँ हामीले 300 जना जति घरधुरीलाई चाहिँ जस्ता पत्ता वितरण गरिसकेका छौं र यो पाला चाहिँ हामीले 152 जना जति
The local government expects that this initiative aimed at displacing thatched roofs in favor of safe housing will bring a positive transformation to the lifestyle of the local residents.
It has been 26 years since the government of Nepal formally banned the Kamaya bonded labor system in the country. Following the ban, thousands were liberated from this inhuman labor practice in the country. However, despite the official declaration, many freed Kamayas continue to face significant challenges in rehabilitation. Bijita Bhandari explores this issue in her report.
On July 17, 2000, the government of Nepal formally abolished the Kamaya system, marking a historic step. But for many of those liberated, it was only the beginning of a long and difficult struggle. According to government data, 1,082 people in Sudur Pashchim province and 1,293 in Lumbini province in western Nepal are still awaiting proper rehabilitation. In Kailali district of Sudur Pashchim alone, 9,762 individuals were issued identity cards. Of them, 8,022 have been rehabilitated, but 953 continue to face serious challenges. This includes 400 individuals dealing with land tenure issues, 173 whose identity cards were cancelled, and 380 who have yet to receive land. Many freed Kamayas who remain unrehabilitated are still living in harsh conditions in temporary camps or along roadsides. Although expectations were high that the Land Problem Settlement Commission would address these issues, there are growing complaints that Kamaya rehabilitation was not included within the Commission's terms of references.
875 जना अझै पनि बाँकी छन् भने कैलाली मात्रै 953 जना चाहिँ जग्गा पाउन बाँकी देखिन्छ भने दुई चरणको छानबिनले पनि हामीले राज्यको चाहिँ छानबिन प्रक्रिया गलत छ यसलाई चाहिँ यो ढंगले सबै परिचय पत्र चाहिँ वास्तविक कमाइहरू पाउन सक्दैनन्.
Similarly, another exploitative form of indentured servitude affecting young girls from the Tharu community, the Kamlari system, was abolished in 2013. However, their rehabilitation also remains incomplete. While scholarship programs were initially introduced to support freed Kamlaris, these have been discontinued after 2020. Alongside education, many continue to struggle with income generation and employment opportunities. Freed Kamlaris report ongoing discrimination in employment, skill development training, and access to opportunities.
नेपालीमा चाहिँ 4074 जना चाहिँ मुक्त कमलारीहरू हुन्। त्यसमा चाहिँ 2500 जनाले परिचय पत्र पाइसकेका छन्, तर डाटाहरू अपडेट नभएको कारणले गर्दाखेरि 2500 भनिएको छ, तर त्यो भन्दा अलिकति बढीले परिचय पत्र पाएको चाहिँ हामीले अनुमान गरेका छौं।
In 2019, the federal government transferred responsibility for the rehabilitation of freed Kamayas to local governments. Although the Sudur Pashchim provincial government introduced working procedures and directives, implementation at the local level has remained slow and largely ineffective. While few of Nepal's political parties have publicly issued apologies to marginalized and ostracized communities like the Dalit community, the situation of freed Kamayas and Kamlaris insists on much deeper reflection. It is pointed out that acknowledgement alone is not enough, as these freed Kamayas and Kamlaris still await meaningful rehabilitation and inclusion in the society.
After examining the challenges faced by freed Kamayas, we now turn our attention to a significant step in biodiversity conservation in Nawalparasi. A total of 26 artificial ponds across 62 community forests are emerging as a strong model for biodiversity conservation. The construction of artificial ponds in various community forests of western Nawalparasi has intensified as the country enters the dry season. A total of 26 ponds across 62 community forests in the district have proven significant for wildlife conservation and forest fire control. With the increasing risk of forest fires during dry season, additional ponds are being constructed on a larger scale to help minimize potential damage.
पटक त हामीले प्रदेश सरकारको तर्फबाट अभियानै चलायौं। एक ओडा एक पोखरी भन्ने खालको अभियान चलेको थियो। अहिले आएर हामीले हरेक सामुदायिक वनलाई कम्तीमा पनि एउटा सामुदायिक वनमा एउटा पोखरी संरक्षित पोखरी बनाऊ, ताकि त्यहाँ वन्यजन्तुलाई पानी पिउने सहज पनि होस्, वन डडेलो नियन्त्रणको हिसाबले पानी पनि उपलब्ध होस्, त्यहाँको माइक्रो क्लाइमेटको संरक्षण गर्ने हिसाबले पनि सहज होस् भन्ने हिसाबले पहल गरेका छौं। हामी हरेक वर्ष संरक्षण पोखरी बनाउने गर्छौं र यो वर्ष पनि डिभिजन वन कार्यालयको पहलमा 11 वटा संरक्षण पोखरी बन्दैछ।
This multi-purpose artificial water body also serve as a vital water sources for wild animals during peak heat time. Water scarcity in forest areas often forces wildlife to enter nearby settlements, leading to human-wildlife conflict and property damage. To address this issue, multi-purpose ponds are being developed through joint investment by community forest and the provincial government. The initiative aims to support wildlife conservation, reduce human-wildlife conflict, and improve forest fire management. Moreover, these ponds play a crucial role in reducing the need to travel long distances to access water, providing quicker response to forest fires. Overall, the construction of ponds in forest area is emerging as a strong model for biodiversity conservation in the country. The debate over riverbed excavation in Nepal remains a complex conflict between urgent development needs and severe environmental degradation, often leading to recurring legal battles and disputes between local and federal authorities. In this context, the Thatched District Administration Office has finally granted permission for the extraction for riverbed materials, as shortages have hampered construction work along the Nagdunga-Muglin Road section. The local administration of Thatched district has granted permission for the extraction of quarry and river-based construction materials from the Trisuli River for the under-construction Nagdunga-Muglin Road section. The administration has also directed that all extraction activities must strictly follow environmental impact assessment and initial environmental examination. Previously, the collection of materials from the Trisuli River, nearby quarries and streams had been halted halted due to protest from local residents. Concerns over the environment and social impacts of unregulated extractions, including the drying up of water sources and the damage to religious and public structures, were also the reason for the restriction. The shortage of sand, gravel and stone had severely affected road upgrading work, bringing construction activities almost to a standstill. Following discussions among concerned stakeholders, all parties have now reached to an agreement to allow controlled and systematic extraction of construction materials. The agreement was made in consideration of the increased risk of transport disruption during the monsoon season. With the new agreement in place, construction is expected to regain momentum as the local supply of materials become more accessible. Under the agreement, materials will be extracted only from designated locations and in specified quantities under the supervision of local authorities. All activities must ensure that public spaces, religious sites and bridges are not harmed. Beyond the cities and the headlines, real lives continue to unfold. Stories shaped by struggle, strengthened by resilience, and carried forward by hope. This is the Hinterlands, and we will be back next week with more stories from the heart of Nepal. Do follow us on our website, nepaltelevision.com, social media handles, and YouTube channel. Thank you for joining us. Goodbye for now.
Trimmed mustache, mirrored shades, and an unmistakable smile, Tenzing Norgay Sherpa climbs a steep hill in Khumbu. It's May 1991. After 38 years, he's returning to meet his old climbing partner, Sir Edmund Hillary, the man with whom he first stood atop the world.
Tenzing, it's good to see you. My goodness. Well, yeah. Hi, Nikki. How are you? Nice to meet you.
Yeah. Long time, good to see you.
Yes, certainly. Did you have a good walk up?
Oh, very well.
Good.
Fine.
Sagarmatha, head of the sky. Chomolungma, mother goddess of the world, or simply Mount Everest. A mountain with many names, yet for generations it meant only one thing: the impossible. Since the 1920s, climbers from around the world had tried to conquer it. Many never returned. Avalanches, storms, frostbite, the mountain refused them all. Then on 29 May 1953, Edmund Hillary of New Zealand and Tenzing Norgay Sherpa of Nepal stood together on top of the world. The world woke up to the headline, "Everest is conquered."
This is the BBC Home Service. Here is the news. Mount Everest has been conquered by members of the British expedition. The news reached London in a message to the Times. It said that Mr. E.P. Hillary, a New Zealander, and Tenzing Bhutia, a Sherpa, had reached the summit last Friday, May 29th.
Among the 35 men in the team that made history was Kancha Sherpa, the last surviving member of that expedition. He passed away in October 2025. He remembered the climb as hard but joyful.
समुल्लोंगमु बना हामीले सुनेको छ हामी के काममा जाने त्यहाँ जाने कामै थिएन अब यहाँको मान्छेहरू चाहिँ तल लोबेजसम्म बस्छ त्यहाँबाट त हामी जाने कामै छैन
अनि तेन्जिङहरू तो हेरेर आएर पो माथि अनि एभरेस्ट चाहिँ हामीलाई थाहा पायो नभए हाम्रो गाउँै भए पनि हामीलाई के जाने कामै छैन गाह्रो भयो हजुर मलाई गाह्रो त के जानु नस्याङ्ने के अब कहिले पनि जस्तो काम गरेको छैन त पनि त बारे बगेर त खरबासमा जानु पर्यो यहाँ हातमा डोरहरू समाउनु पर्यो यहाँ आइसँग समाउनु पर्यो यहाँ बारे थुप्रो बगेर जानु पर्यो अनि त साँगोमा जानु पर्यो अनि माथि जुल्रेर जानु पर्यो अनि गाह्रो त एकदम गाह्रो छ तर यस्तो काम पाएर धेरै खुसी भयो नि
Hillary loved Khumbu and Khumbu loved Hillary. He dedicated his life for the region and its people. In the decades that followed, Everest became a symbol of determination, not just for men, but for everyone who dared to dream. In 1993, Pasang Lamu Sherpa became the first Nepali woman to stand on the summit. Her journey was marked by courage and struggle.
पैसा हुनु पर्यो यसमा आफूले लगानी गरेर खर्च गर्नु पर्यो रोयल्टी तिर्नु पर्यो अब आफूले सँगै लाने गुरुबहरुलाई चाहिँ खानाहरु हुनु पर्यो लुगाहरु एकदम महँगो पैसाहरु हुनु पर्यो त्यसकारणले चाहिँ यो पैसाकोले नि पैसाकै समस्याले गर्दाखेरि पनि अगाडि बढ्न नसकेको हो तर यहाँ एउटा ट्रेनिङको महिलाहरुलाई चाहिँ यो माउन्टेन एरिया क्षेत्रमा एउटा ट्रेनिङको व्यवस्था बन्दोबस्त पनि त्यति साह्रो राम्रो छैन.
For some, the climb is a personal test. For others, it's a way to uplift an entire nation. Of the many record holders from Nepal, Apa Sherpa, who's also known as the Super Sherpa, had reached the summit 21 times before announcing his retirement.
म यो रेकर्डको लागि चल्ने भए त आज पनि चल्न सकिन्छ नि तर म रेकर्डको लागि होइन मैले हाम्रो देशको लागि हाम्रो राष्ट्रको लागि माथि पहिले सुरुवातमा त आफ्नो पेसा भनौँ न अब पुरा नै हाम्रो राष्ट्रको लागि भनौँ पहिले सुरुवातमा त आफ्नो पेसाको हो तर त्यो लास्टमा म चढिरह्यो भने त्यो त तपाईँको उस जस्तो देखिन्छ कि कम्पिटिसन जस्तो देखिन्छ कि मलाई त्यो मेरो चाहिँ नि त्यो कम्पिटिसन होइन र म राष्ट्रको लागि हो त्यसैले मैले अब 2011 देखि मैले सन्यास लिएर अपसेवा फाउन्डेसन खोलेर शिक्षा सबभन्दा इम्पोर्टेन्ट चाहिँ के छ हाम्रो शिक्षा एजुकेसन छैन भने हामीलाई धेरै गाह्रो छ मैले खैराहरूले पनि भन्दैछु विदाउट एजुकेसन वी हैव नो चोइस एजुकेसन इम्पोर्टेन्ट छ त्यसपछि हाम्रो वातावरण त्यसैले हाम्रो नेपालको लागि म त्यो दुईवटालाई जोडेर मैले सपोर्ट गरिरहेको छु.
Over time, the story of Everest has changed. Each climbing season now brings not only adventurers, but also income and impact. In 2024, Everest generated nearly 676 million Nepali rupees, almost 80% of Nepal's total mountaineering revenue. The fee for foreign climbers has been revised now to $15,000 each. So far, more than 8,000 summiteers of different nationalities have climbed Mount Everest. Many more aspire to reach the top of the world. To ease the pressure on Everest and promote other regions, the government of Nepal has opened 97 peaks that range from 5,970 meters to 7,123. One can climb these mountains in the Western Karnali and Sudur Pashchim provinces without having to pay royalties. As voices increase for the need of having summited at least one mountain over 7,000 meters in the country before bidding for the Everest, these 97 peaks are likely to be training ground for summiteers. With success, Everest has also seen a heavy burden. In 2023 alone, more than 75 tons of waste were collected from the Everest region. This included plastic, metal, oxygen bottles, and even human waste. mountain has also been plagued by fatal climbing attempts.
यसपालिको भन्दाखेरि त अब लास्ट इयरको पनि मरेको लासहरू अझै पनि छन् माथि बाटोमै पनि त्यो लासहरू देखे हामीले यो 8300-400 मिटरमा बालकुनीमा त्यो लासहरू पनि अझै भइरहेछ र फोहोरहरू पनि सर्चकोमा पनि टन्नै फोहोरहरू छ पहिला हामीले अब शहरमा त आरओ सङ्घले पनि 2011 मा सफा त गर्यो त्यत्रो फोहोर ल्याए 10 टन फोहोर पनि धेरै नै ल्याएको त्यति ल्याउँदा पनि अझै फोहोरहरू चाहिँ एकदमै छ भनौँ न टाइममा अब राज्यले चाहिँ किन त्यसलाई चाहिँ अलिकति व्यवस्था के अब कुन हिसाबले हुन्छ त्यो फोहोरलाई अलिकति तल ल्याएर अलिकति सफा गर्यो भने एभरेस्टको लागि अलिकति विदेशीहरुको लागि अलि राम्रो होला कि भन्ने चाहिँ हामीलाई लागेको छ.
Sagarmatha has taught the world to dream higher, but now she asks us to care deeper. The greatest climb perhaps isn't upward, but inward. "70 years since the first ascent, much has changed, but one thing has and will remain constant. Everest has and will continue to stand tall and keep challenging human abilities."
Culture and identity of a nation or community is deeply embedded in its craft and lifestyle. In this, specialized craft producers are major actors. Besides specialized skills and uniqueness, time adds value to such crafts. In this film, we explore two such specialized crafts, one in Kathmandu and the other in Niigata, that have played significant role in elevating their respective national culture and identity in the world's fair. The capital of Nepal, Kathmandu, is a spectacular blend of natural beauty and culture. Habitat to about 2.5 million people, the city holds a rich cultural history that dates back to the ancient times. The 7 UNESCO World Heritage Sites it encompasses are evident to the fact. Swayambhunath, Bodhanath, Pashupatinath temple premises, Changunarayan temple area, as well as the 3 Darbar squares of Kathmandu, Patan and Bhaktapur enlisted in the UNESCO Cultural World Heritage Site are not only a glimpse of its civilization, but Nepalese treasured pride. The civilization of Kathmandu that lies 1400 meters above the sea level seemingly holds a close connection with copper products since time immemorial. Historical text has it that Kathmandu in ancient time was referred to as Nepal. Sanskrit lexicographers have a synonym of tamra or copper as Nepaliklam and Nepalam. Hence, the origin of the name Nepal is assumed to have been derived from the Sanskrit word copper. In Nepal, copper has been a basic raw material to a wide range of art and crafts, including in sculpture, architecture, dete, and housewares making. Thus, it has over time been an integral part of Nepali civilization and lifestyle.
इस्वीको सुरुदेखि चाहिँ ताम्रको टुक्राहरूको व्यवहारबाट चाहिँ यसको चलनचल्ती भएको बुझिन्छ। त्यसपछि चाहिँ 6औं शताब्दीमा आएर चाहिँ यसबाट चाहिँ मुद्रा बनाउने चलन आयो। तिस्टुङको भटुवाल र पाल्चोक भन्ने दुई ठाउँमा अंशुवर्माले राखेको अभिलेखमा चाहिँ यो ताम्रभाण्ड तामाका भाँडाहरू चाहिँ सरकारको स्वीकृति बिना बाहिर लानु हुँदैन भन्ने उल्लेख आएको छ। भेन्साङ चाहिँ भारतमा आएर भारतबाट चाहिँ नेपाल भएर चाहिँ चीन फर्केको बुझिन्छ। त्यो चाहिँ 643-44 ईस्वी सम्बततिर आएको बुझिन्छ। त्यो जुन कैलाशकूट भवन छ त्यो कैलाशकूट भवनबारे भेन्साङले एकदमै राम्रो चाहिँ उल्लेख गरेको छ कि यो 7 तलाको थियो। यसको चाहिँ छाना चाहिँ तामाको थियो। यसको चाहिँ नेपालमा चाहिँ तामाको पैसा चाहिँ चल्तीमा छ। यहाँका मानिसहरूले भाँडाकुँडाहरू तामाको चलाउँछ। यी कुराहरू उल्लेख गरेको छ जुन चाहिँ चाइनाको टाङ वृत्तान्तमा अथवा इतिहासमा उल्लेख गरिएको छ।
The earliest known Ripause image is Garudasana Vishnu, dated 607 CE from Changunarayan Temple in Bhaktapur. Some historical metal idols of the 6th and 7th century are remaining in private possession or in museum collections abroad. A significant consideration as evidence of copper metal craft are the idols dating back to the 11th century excavated in Makwanpur, which is a district adjoining Kathmandu. At the moment, these rare valuables are safely harbored at the Patan Darbar Square Museum. Among the 3 cities of Kathmandu Valley, Patan is comparatively popular for copper craft. Hundreds of families, especially the Newars, who are natives of this cultural city, have been preserving their ancestral legacy of manufacturing copperwares and artifacts for generations now. In Nepal, copper artifacts are made mainly through 2 techniques, either by lost waxing or ripause, which is a technique of pounding metal sheets. The Malla period between 1200 to 1482 is considered a golden era in terms of metalcraft in Nepal. An array of work dazzling in its quantity and quality was produced then, much of which survives. The popularity of Nepali artisans had reached far and wide. It was in this period that Araniko, the famous artisan, was taken to Tibet. In 1265, Emperor Kublai Khan of China, impressed with Araniko's work, invited him to the capital and got him to renovate the artifacts in the monastery there, dating back to the Song period. In 1274, Emperor Khan appointed Araniko the director of the court artisans in China. To date, artists in hundreds are committed to continue the legacy of copper craft in Nepal. Among them, some are successfully effortful to simultaneously take ahead promotion and expansion of the craft. Among such names is Rajkumar Shakya, renowned for his crafts and entrepreneurship. Shakya was born on 1966 in Patan in a family of metal craftsmen.
हाम्रो पुर्खौली अब बाजे बराजुदेखि नै यही काममा लाग्नु भएको बुवाले काम गर्नु भएको जासलमा बसेर बुवासँगै बसेर खेल्दै सिक्दै काम गर्दै गर्दै परम्परागत तरिकाले नै सिकेको मैले सानो बेला सिक्दाखेरि त्यति बजार पनि थिएन यो कलाको अहिले आउँदाखेरि यो कलाको चाहिँ बजार पनि अन्तर्राष्ट्रिय जगतमा फैलिँदै गयो यसको चाहिँ उत्पादनमा पनि वृद्धि गर्नुपर्ने देखियो
Shakya's works have made a niche both in the national and international market. Passion, focus, devotion and search for new ideas is what has elevated Shakya's profile as compared to other artists. The incomparable expression of skill and creation of beauty are reflected in his works, which are beyond imagination for any ordinary artists. His widely acclaimed works of craft have been placed at various countries, with Japan, Vietnam, China, Thailand harboring his significant works. The latest is the 155 feet tall idol of Guru Padmasambhav in Bhutan. Based on repoussé, pounded sheets of copper were wrapped around iron skeleton which was built using modern architecture. Supervised by Shakya, it took 4 years for 57 artisans to complete the idol.
2000 एक्सपो मा जर्मनमा मैले सबभन्दा ठुलो स्वयम्भूको स्तूपा बनाउने अवसर पाएँ फेरि पछि चाहिँ 2010 मा चाइनामा पनि फेरि वर्ल्ड एक्सपोमा त्यहाँ पनि मैले चाहिँ ठुलो स्तूपा बनाउने र अरु कलाकृतिहरू बनाउने मौका पाएँ त्यसमा चाहिँ अझ मैले चाहिँ हाम्रो हनुमान ढोकाको श्वेत भैरवको मुखाकृति 12 फिटको श्वेत भैरवको मुखाकृति पनि बनाउने अवसर पाएँ त्यो पनि त्यहाँ अब चाइनामा चाहिँ एक्सपोमा प्रदर्शन गर्न पाएँ त्यसपछि अनि चाहिँ मैले भुटानमा पद्मसम्भवको मूर्ति बनाउने पनि अवसर पाएँ
Cultural and anthropological experts have highly evaluated Shakya's efficiency and capabilities.
त्यो 14औं शताब्दीमा जुन परम्परा थियो हाम्रो नेपालबाट अन्य देशमा गएर चाहिँ नि कलाकारहरूले आफ्नो कला प्रस्तुत गर्ने नेपालको कलाकारितालाई त्यहाँ चाहिँ नि स्थापित गर्ने जुन काम गरेको थियो त्यसै कामको चाहिँ नि निरन्तरताको रूपमा अहिले हामीले 20औं 21औं शताब्दीमा राजकुमार साकेजीलाई पाएको छौं यस्तो ठुलो ठुलो ह्युज त्यो मूर्तिहरू बनाउने क्रममा चाहिँ नि त्यो मूर्तिको एउटा स्थानबाट अर्को स्थानमा सार्नु त्यस्तै गरी त्यसलाई चाहिँ प्रोपोर्सनेट मिलाउने आदि इत्यादि टेक्निकल पनि एकदमै कठिन काम हो अब यसलाई चाहिँ उहाँले अत्यन्तै माइन्युटली चाहिँ गर्नु हुँदो रहेछ
To reach Shakya's stature, however, takes a lot of dedication, devotion, practice and patience. Thus, not many youth look keen in pursuing with the profession. Keeping this in mind, Shakya also conducts classes for the younger generation in a bid to hand it over to them. Most interestingly, Shakya's son is also one of his pupils and has already joined him in his business.
हेरिटेजमा नेपालको एकदम टुरिस्टहरु पनि एकदम आकर्षित भयो हेरिटेजमा हैन त्यही भएर अब बुवा पनि यसमै लाग्नु भयो त्यही पनि मैले नि यसमै गरौँ कि जस्तो मलाई लाग्यो बुवा यति आर्टिस्ट भएर पनि अब मेरोमा पनि धेरै एक्सपेक्टेसन गर्छन् होला अरूले पनि त्यही भएर अब सिक्न काम गाह्रो पनि छ सिक्न अब टाइम पनि लाग्नेछ धेरै सिक्न पनि त बाँकी छ
Such noble endeavors, complemented by the engagement of the younger generation, have indeed sparked a hope that the prosperous tradition will be kept alive. For those involved in copper kitchenwares and housewares, the biggest emerging threat is the modern wares, which are both attractive and cheaper. In a bid to preserve their profession, they have now attempted to add diversity to their products based on the demand of the changing times. Meanwhile, there are others like Kalyan Krishna Tamrakar, who, although remaining in the trade, have embraced newer productions based on market needs. Tamrakar has been manufacturing artistic utensils along with internationally acclaimed singing bowls, which are mostly used in meditational purposes.
करीब 28 वर्ष भयो सिंगिङ बोल्स नयाँ सिंगिङ बोल्स बनाउने र त्यसमा अलिकति थेरापिक युजको लागि बनाएको सायद नेपालमा पहिलो नै मैले बनाए होला एउटा फिलोसफी हो र जहाँसम्म युटेन्सिल्स मैले बनाउने सन्दर्भमा पहिला यो धेरै पहिलाहरू बन्थ्यो र पछि बिस्तारै यो ब्रोन्जको युटेन्सिल्सहरू लोप हुँदै गयो अनि यो बनाउनु पाए हुन्छ कि भनेर अनि हामीले यसलाई फेरि बनाउन थालेको.
The market for singing bowls is mostly Europe and is used in intensive research and meditation. The sound created from the balls vary based on the utensil itself and is proven effective for improving blood circulation and hence is used in therapy as well. Tamrakar, whose forefathers had been copper craftsmen by profession, has justifiably promoted their knowledge and skills in the wider market through entrepreneurship. Majority of his buyers are from Germany and Japan.
やはり他で買いが利かないのと、さらにその日本の求める品質にネパールの人たちが合わせてものを作ってくれるからと思います。
私のユーザーは心を癒すそういったツールを大変求めているユーザーが多いです。例えばアロマセラピーの方でヨガの方、そういった方たちの要望に応えるためにネパールから輸入しようと思いました。そうすると残ってる手作りは大変高い、ほとんどアーティストのレベルしか残りなくなります。一般の方が使う商品はもう今やネパールでないとできないのが現状だと思っています。ですから私たちのユーザーはそれを望んでますから、今私もネパールから大変たくさんの量を輸入しています。
In the Yahikoyama terrain drained by Shinano River lies Niigata city. Rice farming is predominant owing to the rich soil deposit which makes it ideal for agriculture. Besides, it is also renowned for the high-quality copper mines. During the Meiji period, copper mining flourished in the foothills. Adorned in tulip blooms, the designated city of food and flowers does not rest even amidst thick blankets of snow. Tsubame in Niigata is a city of metal craft and craftsmen that have thrived through prosperity and tumultuous times. At the beginning of the 1600s, lots of artisans came to exist in the Tsubame Sanjo area, driven by the local administration's policy of encouraging side business. Thus originated the metal processing industry from the making of Japanese-style nails known as wakugi. The first artisans also produced household items including agricultural tools, kitchenwares and tobacco pipes. Once Japan started importing Western-style nails, the number of artisans gradually started decreasing. During the Second World War until 1945, the factories in the local area had to be mobilized to produce military goods. The 1950s was a time of mass production and mass consumption in Japan. Thus, metal processing companies grew multifold in number and size. Following the Plaza Accord that largely intervened currency markets, the factories gradually lost their business to their overseas competitors. They did not have as many orders as they once had. As a result, the local business temporarily but sharply declined.
今、燕市で追記銅器というふうに言われている、器といいますか、ものがありますけれども、それは一般的に金鉱でいう金属を加工する技術の中の単金と言われるものの一つでして、それを全国的に同じような技法はたくさんあるんですけれども、燕市ではそれを追記銅器と呼んでいる。燕市の追記銅器というのは伝統工芸技術としても県の指定にもなっておりますし、伝統工芸品としても指定されていますが、燕市の中では大体今から250年くらい前の江戸時代の後期にその技術が仙台の方から来た職人によって伝わったと言われています。
Kakuhei Tamagawa also learned the technique from the craftsman and hence founded Gyokusendo in 1816. Since then, about 300 artisans have kept alive the traditional skills. The company is currently a leader in Niigata to preserve and expand the treasured tradition of Tsukidoki. It is said during the Second World War, when weapons and arms mass production had peaked, the Tsukidoki industry nearly disappeared owing to shortages of copper. It was Gyokusendo's then leadership that brought back the craftsmen dispersed across the country, that helped in the revival of the industry. Gyokusendo celebrates its 200th anniversary in 2016. Today, its outlets are spread in top-notch departmental stores in high-end streets of Japan and overseas. Motoyuki Tamagawa is the 7th master of Gyokusendo. Since taking over the company at an early age, he has worked hard to promote his products and company. Tamagawa, who strongly believes in adapting to business management style with time rather than changing age-old skill patterns, introduced the trend of putting his artisans in direct contact with the customers at Gyokusendo's outlets and during exhibitions. This, he believes, not only helps customer understand the skill and hard work required to create an artifact, but also helps the artisans learn the needs and tastes of the changing times.
顔の見える商売をしようと思ったんですよね。でそこで私が考えたのが商社を下ろさずに、直接百貨店に行って、でそこで実演販売をして、職人がお客様と会話するようなこのビジネスモデルを作ってるんですね。この玉泉の方向としては、大量というよりは本当銅器を愛用してくださる方に対してちゃんと説明して、ちゃんと愛用していただける方を対象としたやっぱり商売をしていきたいと思ってますので、だからそういうこと職人も、だから職人をどんどん増やすというわけではなく、ビジネスもどんどん大きくするわけではなくて、ちゃんと玉泉堂というブランドをね、本当高めていく。でお客様のその愛用する、顧客満足度もやっぱり高めていくというところがすごく大事だと思ってますね。
At the Gyokusendo factory, about 15 artisans of various ages work hard by the day to improve their skills. Working with Gyokusendo is a dream for many artisans. Gyokusendo recruits one from among hundreds applying every year. For a craftsman, it can take about 20 to 30 years to acquire proficiency to handle a set of techniques all by himself. Each stroke in tsukidoki is made in such a way such that the marks do not overlap. The proficiency of an artisan is observed in a vessel made out of one copper sheet and without any seams. For the younger artisans, it is a matter of a lot of perseverance and patience. Today, all independent tsukidoki artisans in Tsubame were once trained at Gyokusendo. Among them, a prominent name is of an artist par excellence, Master Norio Tamagawa.
今のその木目金イコール木目金っていうのがもう、のりおさんのことなんですけれども、その土台となっているのはやっぱり玉泉堂で修行していた時代の追記銅器という技術が骨幹にあって根元のところにあって、でそこから、まあ亡くなられた師匠のところに、弟子入りをしたりですとか、いろんなご苦労修行の中でご苦労されながら、今、世界にもこう名前を馳せるようになった素晴らしい作品を作られるようになったと思います。
Master Norio Tamagawa is the pride of Niigata and is acclaimed as the living national treasure, Japan. His insurmountable contribution in reviving mokumegane through his outstanding and unique creation is beyond comparison. The Tsubame Industrial History Museum, which is a hub to compile, preserve and exhibit industrial heritages, has set up a separate section to exhibit his works. This meticulously carved artifact harbored at the museum is the master's signature art piece. The masterpiece is a delicately hammered, refined handiwork that, owing to its traditional aura and aesthetic value, has awed art lovers and consumers across the world.
いわゆる就職って言いますか、会社へ入りますね。会社従業員として入って、何年か経った時に少し外の世界も見たいと思って東京へ2年ばかり修行に行ったんです。日本の芸大っていうね、その人たちとの交流もあったんで、その作品、私の場合はずっとほら商品を作ってたわけでしょ。商品じゃない作品作りのペースっていうのをね、ああ違うもんだなっていうのをつくづく感じましたね。
The master reminisces it took him 11 years before he could call his product a piece of art. As a young artist, he took inspiration from his seniors to aim high and excel bigger dreams.
「作品作りには影響ないね。作品の場合はあくまでも個人のなんだ欲求のままに作るんですからね。世間が何を求めてるかっていうのはあんまり関係ない。っていうのは力がいる仕事なんでね。もう70過ぎてね、現役っていうのは今まであんまりいなかったんです。だから私は仕方ないからやってるけども、だから夢はないけども、もう作品をいくつ作れるか。
The traditional skill nurtured by newer skills, tools and technology has elevated the 200-year-old technique to a world-class art. Contemporary tsukidoki products include a wide range of aesthetically distinctive housewares and artifacts. Mr. Tatsushi Tamagawa, currently the chief manager at Gyokusendo, is Master Norio Tamagawa's son. He started as an artisan at Gyokusendo. Since then, much has changed. He has seen the changing business landscape, the diversity in products, which he says directly or indirectly determines the mindset and working style of an artisan.
言われたものを早く きっちり作るっていうのがとてもいい職人だと思うんですけども、最近はプラス、いろいろこういう喋るものとかも今はそういうふうに、いろいろお客様に説明するとかそういうものも含まれて、全てこなしていい職人になるのかなという感じは最近はありますね。
Most fascinatingly, his son Keita, the youngest of the Tamagawas, also works under him at Gyokusendo. At 20, Keita is already an efficient beginner. Initially, driven by his grandfather's success when he joined the company, it was but a prized escape for Keita. But now, Keita is intensively working hard to attain the precision to be a better artist.
そうですね。どちらの方もすごい仕事に対して一生懸命で寡黙なので、そういうところを自分に取り入れられたらいいなとは思ってますね。なんか、僕のお父さんもなんだおじいちゃんに真似してるっていうか似てきているのでなんかそうですね。おじいちゃんからはやっぱりちょっと仕事がすごいテキパキ早いので、そういうところを見習いたいなとは思いますね。そういうところです。はい。
Since the beginning of human civilization, art has evolved based on culture and vice versa. Nevertheless, the demand of changing times has had a detrimental role to play in its course and form. Whether it is Niigata or Kathmandu, artisans continue to express themselves in their artworks. There is little doubt the modern-day artisans' creativity, aided by modern technology, has not only helped preserve traditional skills, but also contributed to the ascent of human civilization.
Drive launched to clear illegal settlements along Kathmandu's riverbanks. Data collection underway to identify genuine squatters. Draft of Federal Civil Service Bill made public for suggestions. Provisions introduced to revise age limits for entry and requirement. Nepal marks 10 years since the 2015 Gorkha earthquake. Experts call for stronger preparedness and risk reduction. Iran's Foreign Minister Araghchi delivers Tehran's demand to Pakistan. US envoys are en route to Islamabad for new round of peace talks. Armed groups launched coordinated attacks across Mali. Military says fighting ongoing to repel attackers. And Nepal secures a 37-run victory over the UAE in ICC Cricket World Cup League 2. Current cases starts with 4-wicket haul. Good evening, I'm Suveksha Rajak and you are watching NTV World News Hour, coming to you live from Kathmandu at 2200 hours Nepal time. Now the news in details. The government of Nepal has launched a campaign to demolish structures built along riverbanks in vulnerable areas and on public and government land in the Kathmandu Valley. Settlements along the local Bagmati River in Thapathali of Kathmandu metropolitan city, 11 were vacated. The drive was also carried out in the Goirigaon Sinamangal area of Kathmandu Metropolitan City 9 and Shantinagar of Kathmandu Metropolitan City 31. The campaign aims to clear such settlements, finding a sustainable management of landless squatters. According to the Prime Minister's Secretariat, preparations are underway to vacate settlements built unlawfully at Kothatar Butachok in Kageshwari Manohara Municipality 8 and Manohara Toll in Kageshwari Manohara 9 as well. We will bring an in-depth coverage on this later in the bulletin. Now, the Nepal government has made public the draft of Federal Civil Service Bill for public feedback, proposing major changes in services entry and retirement rules. The draft reduces the age limit for entry into civil service by 3 years for men and 5 years for women, while increasing the retirement age from 58 to 60 years. Suggestions have been invited within 7 days of publication. A 2-year cooling-off period is proposed for senior officials after retirement before taking up constitutional, diplomatic or government appointments. The bill further includes fixed tenure and promotion rules, mandatory service periods before transfers, full digitization of administrative processes, and performance-based recruitment, including open and lateral entry systems. The government says the reforms aims to make civil service more efficient, accountable and technology-driven and plans to pass the bill as a priority legislation. Nepal has commemorated the 10th anniversary of the devastating Gorkha earthquake, claiming nearly 9,000 lives, injuring over 22,000 people and damaging around 1 million structures across the country. The disaster, which occurred at 11:56 a.m. of April 25, 2015, affected 32 districts and claimed more than 9,000 lives, leaving thousands injured and millions displaced. Historic landmarks, including Kathmandu's Dharara Tower and several cultural heritage sites, were destroyed or severely damaged. Even a decade later, the memory of the disaster remains vivid, with experts warning that inadequate enforcement of building codes could still expose the country to severe earthquake risk. Officials and experts continue to call for sustained awareness and preparedness efforts, warning that Nepal's high seismic risk makes future large-scale earthquakes a continuing threat. We will look more into it in our segment Issue of the Day later in the bulletin. Now we do have Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi has left the Pakistani capital Islamabad, where he presented Tehran's views and considerations on ending the war during talks in Islamabad with Pakistani Prime Minister. The meeting took place at U.S. envoys Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner are headed to the Pakistani capital in a bid to kickstart a new round of peace negotiations with Iran amid a fragile ceasefire, though the prospect of direct talks remain uncertain. Officials said the discussions in Islamabad are part of intensified diplomatic efforts to prevent further escalation and create conditions for indirect or direct engagement between Washington and Tehran. However, significant gaps remain between the parties on key security and political demands, complicating prospects for immediate breakthroughs. Gunmen have attacked Mali's capital, Bamako, and several locations across the country, says Mali's army in an apparently coordinated assault involving multiple groups. 2 loud explosions and sustained gunfire were heard shortly before 6 a.m. local time near Mali's main military base at Kati outside Bamako. Similar unrest was reported at around the same time in central town of Sivir, the town of Kidal and the city of Gao in northern Mali. Mali has been battling years of attacks by the West Africa affiliates of Al-Qaeda and ISIS. It is also grappling with a much longer history of Tuareg-led rebellion in the north. Nepal secured a 37-run victory over the United Arab Emirates in an ICC Cricket World Cup League 2 match. Chasing a target of 201 runs, UAE was bowled out for 163 in 48.2 overs at the match held at the Tribhuvan Universal International Cricket Ground. For Nepal, Karan Casey led the bowling attack with 4 wickets, while Sandeep Lamechhane and Sompal Kami claimed 2 wickets each. For the UAE, Harpreet Singh top scored with 39 runs off 52 balls, hitting 5 boundaries. Earlier, Nepal was bowled out for 200 in 48.2 overs after being asked to bat first. Dipendra Singh Aire was the top scorer with 75 runs off 90 balls, including 5 fours and 2 sixes. A decade since the devastating Gorkha earthquake, Nepal remembers the tragedy that claimed nearly 9,000 lives and shattered historic landmarks. Experts warn the nation still faces high seismic risk, with calls for stronger preparedness and enforcement of building codes in our issue of the day after this break. Welcome back. You're watching NTV World News Hour. Nepal marks the 10th anniversary of the devastating 2015 Gorkha earthquake today, pausing in remembrance of the nearly 9,000 lives lost. The day also reflects on a decade of rebuilding marked by significant progress, persistent gaps, and renewed efforts to strengthen safety against future disaster. In our issue of the day, our colleague Vijeta Bhandari brings a report.
Today, Nepal marks the Nepali date of Baishakh 12, observing the 10th Earthquake Memorial Day in remembrance of the devastating 2015 Gorkha earthquake that struck a decade ago. At exactly 11:56 a.m. on April 25, 2015, a powerful earthquake measuring 7.6 magnitude with its epicenter in Barpak of Gorkha district in central Nepal jolted the nation, affecting 32 districts and leaving widespread devastation. Barely half a month later, another big aftershock of Gorkha earthquake struck near the Chinese border in the northeast of Kathmandu Valley, thus deepening the crisis. Nearly 9,000 people lost their lives and more than 22,000 were injured. Entire communities were reduced to rubble, with close to 1 million private houses destroyed. Thousands of schools, health institutions, roads and water systems were damaged. Historic and cultural landmarks, including Kathmandu's iconic Tharara, collapsed, marking an immense loss of national heritage. More than 300,000 families were left homeless across Nepal, India, Bangladesh and other regions, while the psychological impact of the disaster continues to linger even today. 10 years on, Nepal's recovery tells a story of both progress and unfinished work. Of the more than 835,000 beneficiaries identified for private housing reconstruction, over 92% received the second installment and nearly 89% have accessed the final installment. Billions of rupees have been mobilized for rebuilding homes, schools and heritage sites, yet several areas still await full reconstruction and some beneficiaries remain outside the reach of financial support. A report by the Office of the Auditor General has pointed to gaps in effective rehabilitation, relocation and monitoring, raising concerns about the pace and quality of long-term
recovery. In parts of Kathmandu and other affected districts, rebuilding continues, reflecting both the scale of destruction and the challenges of sustained reconstruction. Meanwhile, efforts are also underway to strengthen building safety and prevent a repeat of past vulnerabilities. The government has prepared a draft amendment to the existing building law, proposing stricter regulations, higher penalties, and greater authority for local governments to act against unsafe and unauthorized construction. A decade later, the memory of the earthquake endures in the lives lost, the structures damaged, and in the ongoing efforts to rebuild safer and stronger. Vijata Bhandari reporting for NTV World.
An endangered voice in Nepal, Jerung, spoken by fewer than 3,000 people, faces the threat of extinction. Community members in Okhaldhunga are urging urgent government action to preserve their language and heritage. Coming up next in our cover story after this break. Welcome back. You're watching NTV World News Hour, and it's time for our cover story. Jerung, one of Nepal's 124 languages with fewer than 3,000 speakers, is facing the threat of extinction as younger generations shift to dominant languages. In eastern Nepal's Okhaldhunga districts, where most speakers live, community members are calling for urgent government action to preserve the language through education and formal recognition. Our teammate Aprila Krisinglama reports.
According to Nepal's 2021 national census, Jerung is one of the 124 languages spoken in the country, with a total of 2,817 native speakers. The language is primarily used by the Zero Rai community residing in areas such as Madhavpur, Sisneri, Kalleri, Jordhara, Balkhu, Jerung Hill, Jerung Village, among others in eastern Nepal's Okhaldhunga district. Census data indicates that 2,427 Jerung speakers live in Okhaldhunga alone.
बुवा मम्मीहरुसम्मलाई आउँछ अब बाजे बजुलाई आउँछ त्यहाँदेखि अलिकति अब हामीलाई चाहिँ अब आउँदै आउँदैन भन्दा पनि भयो अब बुझ्न त बुझ्छौं हैन हल्का बोल्छौं तर त्यसको नीति नियमहरु के हामी पूरा गर्दैनौं र अब हाम्रो बालबच्चा अब हामीसम्म त ठिकै अब हाम्रो बालबच्चाले चाहिँ अब के नै नबुझ्ने भो
हामी जेरो राई हो तर भाषा चाहिँ के हो भने ओम्बोले भाषा जेरो त्यो किन भने अलिकता समाजले तान्यो नि अबोलेको समाजले तानेर त्यो भाषा अब के हो भने बान्तावाको छेउमा बस्दाखेरिमा बान्तावा भाषै नै आउँछ कि ठुलुङ राईलाई पनि.
Despite its presence, the Jerung language is at risk of extinction. The growing dominance of other languages, particularly those used in formal education and wider communication, has reduced its appeal among younger generations. As a result, intergenerational transmission of the language is weakening. Linguistically, Jerung has a defined structure with 29 consonants and 6 vowels as identified by the Language Commission of Nepal. However, the absence of a standardized script and an official curriculum has limited its use to oral communication.
पाठ्यक्रम पनि निर्माण गर्ने कुरा हुँदा हुँदै पनि नभएको कारणले गर्दाखेरि अहिलेको पछिल्लो पिढी पुस्ताका पछिल्लो जेनेरेसनका बच्चाहरूलाई चाहिँ यो भाषा समस्या आइरहेको कारणले गर्दाखेरि यसको संरक्षण गर्नको लागि पाठ्य पुस्तक तयार गरेर अलिकता भाषा विज्ञहरूसँग सहजीकरण गरेर अगाडि बढाउन ता चाहिँ भोलिको जेनेरेसनमा यो भाषालाई स्थापित गर्न सकिन्थ्यो भन्ने चाहिँ मलाई अहिले लागिरहेछ.
Local leaders and educators note that there has been insufficient institutional effort toward its preservation. Migration for education and employment has further contributed to the decline in the number of active speakers. Even within villages, daily communication increasingly takes place in Nepali or other dominant languages. Community members emphasize the need for coordinated efforts from all levels of government to safeguard the language. Suggested measures include the development of a formal curriculum, integration of Jerung language instruction in schools, and community-based language education programs. Jerung is not merely a means of communication. It represents the identity, history, and cultural heritage of the Zero Rai community. Without timely and sustained intervention from local communities, authorities, and the state, the language faces the real possibility of disappearing. A report by April Singh Lama with local correspondent Nawaraj Karki for NTV World.
On today's Public Pulse, we have asked the members of Zero Rai community on how their language, Jerung, can be saved from extinction. Let's hear their say.
सर्वप्रथम त हामी सबैले यो भाषा युज गर्नु पर्यो, बोल्नु पर्यो, आफू बोल्नलाई सक्षम हुनु पर्यो र यसमा चाहिँ अब कतिपय हाम्रो सानो बच्चाहरूले पनि जान्दैनन्, उहाँलाई पनि हामीले सिकाउने कोसिस गरिरहेछौँ, सिक्नु पर्यो। आफ्नो यो भाषा संरक्षण गर्नको लागि चाहिँ अब अरूले भन्दा पनि आफूले संरक्षण गर्नु पर्यो, किनकि आफ्नो पिँढीहरूलाई पनि आफूले सिकाउँदै जानुपर्ने हुन्छ।
सबैभन्दा हामीले चाहिँ तालिमको समस्या छ के सर, तालिमको आवश्यकता छ। यो भाषा भूषा बोल्नको लागि तालिमको समस्या, यो तालिम चाहिँ थोरै हाम्रो राज्यले बुझ्दियो भने थोरै हामीले तालिम प्राप्त एउटा स्वयंसेविका कुनै खटाएर तालिम हामीले जुन भाषाको तालिम हामीले गराइदियो भने
पहिले यो 2064-65 तिर अब यो हाम्रो सांस्कृतिक यो हाम्रो जेरो भाषा चाहिँ हराउने रहेछ भनेर एकचोटि किताब पनि छापेको पनि थियो। त्यो बीचमा अहिले आएर त्यो सबै हराए पनि फेरि हो। अब त्यस्तो अब सबै गर्नेहरू यो चासो लिनेहरू अब तपाईको बाहिरै हिँडे, अब त्यो त्यतिकै छोडे।
पहिल्यैदेखि पर्वते भाषा चाहिँ गरिल्याएकोले अब सकेसम्म त अब पाठमा सिकाउँदा नै बेस हुन्छ होला जस्तो लाग्छ, किनभने बिर्सँदै गयो। हामी अब गाउँघरमा पातल बस्ती छ, हामी पातल छौँ, घरमा मात्रै सिकाएको छ र पनि हाम्रो यतिको गाउँमा गाउँमै बस्दा चाहिँ हाम्रो केटाकेटीहरूलाई बोल्नुपर्छ भनेर लाउँछौँ। कति चाहिँ अब यसलाई चाहिँ संरक्षण गर्नुपर्छ जस्तो लाग्छ मलाई।
आफ्नो संस्कृति पनि हराउने हो र जुन हिजो बाजे बजू हाम्रो अग्रज हाम्रो पुस्ताहरूले गर्नुभएको पनि कार्यहरू पनि बिस्तारै लोपोन्मुख हुने उसमा पुग्यो। त्यो लोपोन्मुख भयो साथसाथै तपाईँको हाम्रो यो भाषा पनि लोप हुने उसमा देखियो, बुझियो।
हामी सबैले नै सानो ठुलो बच्चाहरूदेखि नै सबैले नै यो बोल्ने बानी फेरि हामी बोल्नेको विकास गऱ्यौँ भने चाहिँ यो भाषालाई हाम्रो फेरि उत्पन्न नै हुन्छ। किताब शुद्ध छापेर ल्याउनु भएको थियो क्या हाम्रो अङ्कलले चाहिँ अस्ट्रेलिया हुनुहुन्छ, उहाँले चाहिँ किताबै छापेर ल्याउनु भएको थियो। हाम्रो संस्कृतिलाई जगाउनुपर्छ, हाम्रो सबै गर्नुपर्छ, हाम्रो भाषा हराउँछ भनेर यो हाम्रो वडामा मिटिङ राखेर छलफल गर्नु भएको थियो, एउटा किताब पनि बाँड्नु भएको थियो।
पहिलाको बुढाखालको मात्रै हो जेरो भाषा चल्ने, अहिले चाहिँ बच्चाहरूको जुन खसुरा चल्ने हो। अहिले केटाहरूको अब बोली अब पहिला बच्चालाई खसुरा ल्याएको छ भने अहिले पढाइमा पनि अब खसुरा चाहिँ सजिलो पर्ने भयो।
That was our cover story of the day. Now we move to other updates. Kathmandu's long-standing unmanaged settlements along riverbanks are now facing a decisive and well-coordinated government enforcement. Ending years of uncertainty, authorities have simultaneously begun a screening process to distinguish genuine landless families from illegal occupants. Our teammate Diksha Awasthi with local correspondent Anjir Singh Bika delves deeper.
Nearly 6,000 families, around 40,000 people living along 6 major riverbanks in the Kathmandu Valley are now facing eviction and resettlement as the government launches a large-scale squatter settlements clearance drive. Authorities have also begun identifying genuinely landless families with 24 households already verified as fully homeless and temporarily housed at Thatched Stadium in Tripureshwar. Digital profiling is underway and verified families will be relocated to sites including Kirtipur, Ichangu, Bode and Kharipati.
23 परिवार चाहिँ रेजिस्टर हुन आउनु भएको छ। त्यसमा चाहिँ 5 वटा परिवार मात्र किर्तिपुर जानुभयो
अरु चाहिँ अब आफ्नै व्यवस्था गर्छौँ हामी अहिलेलाई भन्नु।
Officials say priority is being given to children, the elderly, and persons with disabilities as the government attempts to balance river conservation and urban order with humanitarian responsibility. From early this morning on Saturday at the Thapathalis quarter settlements, what was once a hot spot of resistance along the Bagmati river bank in Kathmandu, there were no clashes or stone pelting, only the steady sound of bulldozers tearing down makeshift shelters as the government's final deadline expired.
हामीलाई कम्तीमा पनि एक हप्ता अगाडि आएर माइकिङ गरिदिएको भए हामी कहीं न कहीं डेरा खोज्थ्यौं होला 81 आएर भत्काइयो भन्ने कुरा आयो एक हिसाबले यो कुरालाई पनि सरकारले सोचे भए चाहिँ अझ व्यवस्थित हुन्थ्यो कि
Following the peaceful clearance of Thapathali, the operation expanded to other unauthorized settlements along river corridors across the valley. Police say many residents cooperated with prior notices, some moving their belongings on their own, while others were assisted by security personnel.
सहज परिस्थिति भएको छ सामान्य उहाँहरू सार्दै हुनुहुन्छ हामी पनि सहजीकरण गर्दिँदैछौँ नेपाल सरकारका सुरक्षा निकायका विभिन्न अङ्गहरूले पनि सहयोग गर्दै हुनुहुन्छ उहाँहरू अब खाली गर्ने परिस्थिति भएपछि त्यसपछि मेसिन लगाउने कुरा एकछिनमा होला
Encroachments have long spread along rivers like the Bagmati, Vishnumati and Balkhu. In Thapathali alone, 252 families had been living in informal settlements. A previous relocation effort in Ichangunarayan failed, leaving constructed housing unused, raising concern about the effectiveness of current plans.
जुन खास सुकुम्बासी हो अब तिनीहरुको आँखामा आँसु झरिरहेको अवस्थामा तिनीहरुलाई यो उजाड त गरियो तर तिनीहरुलाई व्यवस्थापन पनि गर्नुपर्ने सरकारको दायित्व रहन्छ.
While this campaign sends a strong message against illegal occupation, experts stress that the real solution lies beyond demolition in sustainable rehabilitation. As the process unfolds, attention now turns to whether the government can deliver a lasting and human resolution for the truly landless.
Vehicular movement along sections of Nepal's BP highway has been closed since this afternoon. The recent rainfall caused significant flooding in the Roshi River and movement was prohibited to prevent any untoward incidents, according to local police. The public has been urged to check updates on highway conditions before travelling via this route. Previous floods and landslides in the area had swept away 18 kilometers of roadway in the Roshi and Nepal Thok areas of Sinduli. The highway was also damaged over a stretch of 4 kilometers by rainfall in the first week of April. Unprecedented rainfall in late September 2024 had severely damaged the Chowki-Dara Nepal Thok route along the highway. Since then, vehicles have been operating via temporarily constructed roads and diversions. Permanent restoration work on the roadway is presently underway, according to the division office Bhaktapur. Chinese ambassador to Nepal Zhang Maoming and Indian ambassador to Nepal Naveen Srivastav met Minister for Energy, Water Resources and Irrigation Biraj Bhakta Shastra on Friday. In the meeting held separately, Chinese ambassador discussed with the Energy Minister a range of matters aimed at advancing mutually beneficial practical cooperation. In addition, a commitment has been expressed to cooperate and collaborate for common prosperity and public interest by promoting the energy and water resources sectors as an important basis for mutual cooperation. Similarly, in the meeting with the Indian ambassador, both sides engaged in fruitful exchanges on areas of mutual interest, particularly in strengthening cooperation in the energy and water resources sectors. The Energy Ministry said it looks forward to further strengthening this partnership through continued dialogue and cooperation. Janaki Navami has been observed across Nepal's ancient Mithila region today with a series of religious rituals marking the birth anniversary of Sita. Celebrated each year on the 9th day of the bright fortnight of the Nepali month of Boisak, the festival, also known as Sita Jayanti, commemorates the belief that Sita was born in Mithila, the modern-day Janakpur. According to tradition, during a severe drought in the kingdom of Mithila, King Janak plunged a field following advice from scholars, after which Sita is believed to have emerged from the earth. In districts including Mohattari, celebration celebrations began with the start of bright lunar phase. Temples and holy shrines across the region are hosting 9-day religious observances featuring recitations of scriptures, processions and rituals dedicated to Sita. Sita, revered as a national figure in Nepal, is described in the Ramayana as an embodiment of virtue from childhood, whose life further elevated the cultural legacy of Mithila after her marriage. We have more international updates coming up next, but before that, let's have a recap of the headlines. Drive launched to clear illegal settlements along Kathmandu's river banks. Data collection underway to identify genuine squatters. Draft of Federal Civil Service Bill made public for suggestions. Provisions introduced to alter age limits for entry and retirement. Nepal marks 10 years since the 2015 Gorkha earthquake. Experts call for stronger preparedness and risk reduction. Iran's Foreign Minister Araghchi delivers Tehran's demands to Pakistan. Trump cancels Witkoff and Kushner's trip to Pakistan as the US media reports. Armed groups launched coordinated attacks across Mali. Military says fighting ongoing to repel attackers. And Nepal secures a 37-run victory over the UAE in ICC Cricket World Cup League 2. Current KC stats with 4-wicket haul. It's time for international updates. Iran's President Masoud Pezeshkian has called on the Iranian people to reduce their energy consumption, saying the US naval blockade aims to show dissatisfaction and urging people not allow the ground for it to take hold at all.
اینا زیرساخت ما رو زدن، ما رو در محاصره قرار میدن تا مردم ناراضی بشن و این رضایتی که الان وجود داره تبدیل به نارضایتی بشه. چطوری میتونیم جلوش بایستیم؟ این که ما اون زمینه‌هایی که اونا فکر میکنن باعث نارضایتی رو مردم اجازه ندن اصلا به وجود بیاد.
At least 7 people were killed in Russian strikes across Ukraine overnight, including 5 in the central city of Dnipro, where officials said an apartment building was hit. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said the latest attack lasted practically all night, while rescue workers were still searching for survivors under rubble in Dnipro on Saturday morning. Meanwhile, Ukraine carried out some of its longest-distance drone strikes deep inside Russian territory. As the 40th anniversary of the Chernobyl nuclear disaster is marked, survivors reflect on how the trauma of the 1986 explosion continues to shape his life, now compounded by fresh personal loss amid Russia's war and Ukraine. Our colleague Sarah Sapsanamarai looks at how the legacy of the disaster continues to echo through generations and the ongoing human toll of conflict in the region.
In the quiet town of Slovodich, memories of the world's worst nuclear disaster still linger. For Nikolai Solovyov, the night of April 26, 1986 was the beginning of what he calls his first war. A turbine mechanic at Chernobyl, he was just meters away when reactor number 4 exploded. Solovyov rushed toward the destroyed reactor, unaware of the invisible danger already surrounding him.
Но во время аварии я находился на втором блоке, на 4-й турбине, это где-то вот здесь. Я находился, и я сам на нулевой отметке был. Когда произошел взрыв, я услышал такое, как землетрясение. Турбины все же работали, шум там хороший стоит, поэтому самого взрыва я не мог слышать просто физически. А такое, как вибрация, ну что-то мне показалось странным.
Colleagues lay dying. The roof torn open, exposing the sky. Firefighters battled the blaze, many of them later losing their lives to radiation. Inside, the damage was overwhelming. survival seemed unlikely. By dawn, fear turned to grim acceptance as workers spoke of how long they had left to live. Soviet authorities kept the disaster hidden even as thousands were exposed. Solovyov stayed, helping contain the aftermath and build the reactor's protective shell. Decades later, he lives with the consequences of that night, but also with another loss. His son, a Ukrainian soldier, went missing during Russia's invasion. For Solovyov, the war has returned, but this time not against radiation. He says both conflicts have shaped his life and his country.
Его нету ни в списках погибших, ни в списке пленных. То есть мы ДНК сдали, но нам 2,5 года никаких ответов. И все эти 9 человек числятся в списке пропавших без вести. Странно, конечно, но нет. Это тяжелая война для нас, это тяжелая тема. Я, чтобы не расстраиваться, давайте я не буду ее сейчас вспоминать. Война это тяжело. Особенно, когда война на нашей территории.
At Chernobyl Memorial, he honors those lost from the disaster and from today's war. For a man who survived the unimaginable, the past and present remain painfully intertwined.
A fragile sandbank off France's Atlantic coast is rapidly disappearing after a series of powerful winter storms, in what scientists describe as an unprecedented environmental shift affecting a protected biodiversity site. The Blanc d'Arguin, located near the towering dune du Pilat in Arcachon Bay, has shrunk dramatically from about 7 kilometers in length in 2020 to roughly 2 kilometers in 2026, according to monitoring data cited by researchers. The sandbank, long considered a jewel of the region's coastal ecosystem, serves as a critical habitat for migratory and nesting bird species and has been protected as a nature reserve for decades. Local authorities and environmental groups, meanwhile, are continuing to assess the damage and evaluate potential conservation responses. Now in the other news, millions of tulips has bloomed at peak spring display in Netherlands as Keukenhof opens a global visitors with millions of tulips in full flower as the seasonal attraction centers enters its busiest phase. Authorities and park officials report that the garden, which is open for only around 8 weeks each year, is drawing tens of thousands of visitors daily from across the world. The surge in attendance coincides with the height of the tulip season, when the park's extensive landscape fields are their most vibrant. The peak bloom period is considered the most significant phase of park's annual calendar, contributing heavily to regional tourism activity in southern Holland. Business news coming up next. For now, a short breather.
The European Union says talks with the US on easing steel tariffs are progressing positively, although some key issues remain unresolved. Trade Chief Maros Sefcovic said both sides aim to align strategies on steel trade, especially regarding third countries. Discussions in Washington included efforts to speed up technical negotiations and strengthen cooperation. Despite some tariff simplifications, the EU still faces challenges with certain steel products under US import rules. Since Donald Trump's return, European industries have been affected by steep tariffs on steel and aluminum. Both sides also share concerns about global overcapacity, particularly linked to subsidized steel exports. The EU hopes to build joint measures with the US to protect their industries from unfair competition. An oil tanker arrived at Iraq's Basra terminals, marking continued efforts to maintain exports despite disruption in the Strait of Hormuz. Officials say Iraq is still receiving vessels, though arrivals remain limited following the blockade of the key shipping route. Baghdad previously reached understandings with the US and Iran to ease the impact on its oil trade. Iraq, a major OPEC exporter, relies heavily on the strait and has been forced to find alternative export routes. These include shipping oil by truck through Syria and resuming pipeline exports via Turkey's Ceyhan port. The situation highlights ongoing pressure on global energy flows caused by tensions in the region. Canada has approved a multi-billion-dollar expansion of a West Coast natural gas pipeline aimed at boosting exports to Asia and reducing reliance on the US. The roughly $4 billion Canadian project will expand capacity to move liquefied natural gas from British Columbia, with construction expected to begin this summer and finish by 2028. Prime Minister Mark Carney has described Canada as an energy superpower and said increased exports to Asia could help offset strained trade relations with Washington. Officials say the project is part of a broader strategy to diversify Canada's energy markets and strengthen ties with Asian buyers. The expansion comes as global energy markets face pressure from geopolitical tensions in the Middle East. Fuel price spikes driven by the war in Iran are boosting global demand for electric vehicles, with consumers seeking cheaper alternatives to petrol. Chinese manufacturers are emerging as major beneficiaries, led by BYD, now the world's top-selling EV maker after overtaking Tesla. While largely excluded from the US market, Chinese EV firms are expanding rapidly across Asia, Europe, and Latin America. BYD says demand is now exceeding supply, with strong interest from regions including Brazil, the UK, and the European Union. Executives say rising oil prices are making EVs more attractive as drivers look to cut daily transport costs. The company is also promoting new fast-charging technology aimed at easing concerns over long charging times and boosting adoption.
Now to sports. New Diamond Youth Sports Club secured a second consecutive victory in the 10th edition of Prime Minister Cup NVA Women's and Men's Volleyball League. In the women's category match held at the National Sports Council NSC Covered Hall in Kathmandu's Tripureshwar, New Diamond defeated Everest Volleyball Club in straight sets 3-0. New Diamond won the match 28-26, 26-24 and 25-14 to register its second win in the tournament. In another match, departmental team Nepal Police Club also secured its second consecutive victory by defeating Sudar Paschim Province 3-0. Meanwhile, Sudar Paschim had lost its first match against New Diamond Youth Club in straight sets. Defending champions NRT were defeated as Mochinder Club Kathmandu clinched the title of the third NRNA International Invitational Ilam Gold Club. Mochinder secured a 2-0 victory over NRT to lift the trophy in the first half of the final. Saurav Limbu scored with a header, followed shortly by a second goal from Milan Chamling, sealing the win for Mochindra. The champions Mochindra Club received a cash prize of 1 million rupees, approximately $7,500 along with the trophy, while runner-ups NRT received 500,000 rupees, approximately $3,750 and the trophy. Benfica's Gianluca Prestiani has been handed a 6-match suspension for discriminatory conduct that was deemed homophobic in a Champions League match against Real Madrid, according to UEFA. Cristiano will be banned for 2 more matches after UEFA said had a further 3-match suspension would be subject to a probationary period of 2 years starting from the date of the present decision. He has already served a 1-match provisional suspension. The Argentinian winger was accused of directing a racist slur at Real Madrid forward Vinicius Jr. during the Spanish side's 1-0 Champions League playoff first leg win in February. UEFA also said they would request FIFA to extend the suspension worldwide. Now the weather updates, first from Nepal and then across the world. And before we wrap up, here's a reminder of our top stories. Drive launched to clear illegal settlements along Kathmandu's riverbanks. Data collection underway to identify genuine squatters. Draft of Federal Civil Service Bill made public for suggestions. Provisions introduced to alter age limits for entry and retirement. Nepal marks 10 years since the 2015 Gorkha earthquake. Experts call for stronger preparedness and risk reduction. Iran's Foreign Minister Araghchi delivers Tehran's demands to Pakistan. Trump cancels Witkoff and Kushner's trip to Pakistan as per US media reports. Armed groups launch coordinated attacks across Mali. Military says fighting ongoing to repel attackers. And Nepal secures a 37-run victory over the UAE in ICC Cricket World Cup. League 2 current cases starts with 4-wicket haul. That's it for this edition of NTV World News Hour. I'm Suveksha Rajak and thank you for staying with us. Good night.